Oh, it's not, what's that? Oh, yeah, that's not good. Uh, I'll have my camera up soon. I'm just kind of working some stuff. But yeah, like, I mean, the weeks, like, we need more days in the week. We need more hours in the days and the days in the week, like at the moment. And as much as people would be like, no, that just means that the weekend is further and further away. At this point in time, I don't mind that because, like, I've got a lot of stuff to do in August, and it doesn't seem like there's enough August to go around at this point in time. It's weird. Yep, yep. I'm moving house, and the internet is not actually going to be functional until September, which really sucks. Jesus, man, you got a lot of pent up kind of stress that you need to like just shake off. Holy God. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're not muted? You muted? You're not muted. Hang on, let me. Oh, it is straight up muted. Oh, goddamn. We've been chatting around.
Wow. So that's funny. Uh,
There we go. There we go.
start up the stream and the camera's broken and the microphone's broken. Go figure. Uh,
Hey, we're trying to get, like all of the potential pitfalls, like we're just getting out of the way at the start of the show. That's how we do
oh
it.
man, this
Also,
is this is why
SD
you have
boy,
a
like,
pre-show, because if you fuck up the real one, then you're boned. Oh,
I mean, I don't know. Maybe I was coming through, but you weren't coming through. I'm not sure, but
I
like,
think you were coming
because
through
like,
because there's comments
yeah,
about what you said, but not.
yeah,
Yeah. Uh, so to
yeah. There you
recap,
go.
I'm taking a vacation next week. McLeod is also out. Um,
I'm
and
moving
the week
house.
after, McLeod, I believe, is going to be here in spirit and or voice only, um,
Yeah,
because
through my phone.
his internet is not great and not set up
My
at the new
my
place.
Yeah, my well, it's just not set up in the new place. Like essentially, you have to get an engineer out to to make sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed and all that kind of stuff before they actually properly flick the switch and say congratulations, you have internet again. But until then, I will be relying on mobile internet and mobile data. Which if you know anything about mobile data, if you don't pre-plan this, it gets freaking expensive.
That it does. That it does. Um, some other kind of fun stuff is, of course, this is like the first vacation I'm taking in a very long time. Like pre-pandemic was the last time I took a week off. Um, Now else here that's
Hmm.
interested in the Riot
That's
MMO. I'm very interested in what Riot has to bring to the table. because you know it's going to be incredibly well funded, and if it's anything like Arcane, which like the fact that they're making Arcane as a series is a miracle. The fact that it turned out really good is like yet another miracle, and like the fact that we're getting another season is just the stars aligning in a perfect way for like some of the most interesting lore possible to get out there. And like I'm super pumped. uh I'm super pumped for like the continuance of the of Arcane, but also like Riot building an MMO is gonna be a big deal. um
Oh yeah.
I'm super pumped about that. It'll be interesting to see what it actually is in the end.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Oh, I'm sure everybody's like very, very itching at the, you know, like wanting to see what the hell they're trying to create.
see if
So,
see if there's a video out there.
let's see if we can find some video on it.
Is there a trailer?
Hmm?
Is there a trailer? Like all I'm seeing is that's why you get like despite the fact that Google owns YouTube, you know,
They're really good
their
at
search
not
for
promoting
videos
their.
is terrible.
Oh, yeah.
Um, Getting about 1,000 videos from Asmongold.
Yeah, he's been reacting to everything. And although I understand that reaction videos were all the rage, like, you know, 4 or 5 years ago on Twitch, or on not Twitch, on YouTube, like, I just see it as stealing people's content. Like, especially if you're not going to be adding anything or not adding much to it, like to the conversation, to the sort of like to the points being made in the video. Like, I half kind of see it as like just fucking half stealing content. I know that's probably controversial. Like, you guys can clip me on that one if you want. But I don't know. That's how I kind of feel. Like, I guess to some degree, the person who's having their content being reacted to gets a lot of additional traffic from the attention gained by having a big content creator sort of showcase their content and react to it. But yeah, I wonder how much more they would get if like the people were watching the actual video rather than the reaction video. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
always get served it's a case of you always get served the reaction video, right? And not the actual video that it's being reacted to. Along with it, like you just and so it's like unless you specifically actually go and look for the video and watch that, which why would you? You've already watched the video by watching the reaction video, right? I don't know. I kind of feel like it's stealing to some degree. Sucks. Does make me wonder if I should just like
so
react
there
to
is.
stuff just
I
for the
have the
sake of it.
underlying
But it's so
video.
easy. It's so easy to react to put up a reaction video. Like, so long as you know that like your takes aren't going to be terrible, and so long as like you have some followers or like you can create a sort of semi-viral um, moment in that reaction video, then and obviously make a, a a thumbnail that goes with that makes people go like, oh, what the hell was he reacting to? Oh my god, that's an insane reaction. He must have really reacted badly to something that was said in that video. What was it? Etc. 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 And I'm like, it's all clickbait.
Yeah, So I mean, basically, like the cool part about this is, of course, Riot has everything set up, lore wise, art wise, and everything else that transition to creating an MMO in the universe that they've created is really, frankly, kind of easy. Um, like they've done all of the background lore. They've kind of created the right zones. The natural barriers between the areas. Each of them has their own kind of look. Um, you know,
Hmm.
like I think overall, like this is a great way to go with things. Like I can't think of any way to fault this. Yeah, like they're like Riot has always, seeing as the game that they originally built is a MOBA. They didn't need the lore that they created to sell the MOBA experience. Like,
No.
you know, it was candy extra dressing that just really wasn't needed for League of Legends to be successful. It was helpful, it was kind of a cool thing to kind of get into, but it was completely unnecessary. That said, when your end goal is to actually build something meaningful out of it, you know that kind of creates a difference. You uh, and I think one, this guy has done a really good job of putting this video together. The problem is there are often times where um, he is overlaying or adding to the map in, like, this is his 3D render. This isn't the official 3D render, which I caught that on the bottom of the screen earlier, and it was like, okay, well, what is the actual game going to look like? We know the map is obviously the same because like the map is part of the lore, and we've known about that for a while. We know, roughly speaking, what a lot of these places are going to look like because we've seen them in the lore. We've seen them in, um, in Arcane, for example. You've seen Piltover and um, and much of that. So like, there's a lot of actual stuff that has to be built yet, but I think that there's some cool ways that they can go with this. Um, and God, the art is going to be like just amazing. Um, it's also going to be interesting to see, like, how customized are they going to go with this? Is it going to be you're playing, you pick a champion and play that champion, or you build your own character and kind of build out their own abilities and um, basically pick a race, pick a starting point, and move from there. Um, it'll be interesting. This guy goes way in depth into the lore. I can hear what he's saying, but yeah, he's, this guy has the level of detail around League of Legends that I like to give around New World. So like I give him a lot of credit for knowing this much because it's not easy to have that level of information.
I get you.
So yeah,
Can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear
Am
you.
I coming through clearly?
Yeah,
Okay, because like there's some weird stuff going on with my internet in terms of like maybe DNS related issues, because I'm not getting web pages up, but yet I'm able to talk to you fairly fine and hear you fairly fine, which is odd. I'm just gonna say. Hopefully, it's not like my ISP kind of going. It was this Wednesday that they wanted to sort of like turn off the internet and transfer it, right? Like, no,
yeah, that would be rough.
that'd be pretty
Um,
bad. I mean, I did confirm the date to him to like the to my ISP when I called them up and stuff about that. So they should know. But I'm just gonna go quickly and like restart my router and all that jazz. So Apologies for my like disappearance for a little bit.
Yep.
Right.
Um, so some of the other stuff. Wow, Twitch is really going heavy with the ads, aren't they? I got no control on it. That's Twitch for you. Um, so in some other news, Assassin's Creed Infinity uh, will feature a highly requested Japanese setting, as well as a very cool one that hasn't been requested much, which will be revealed soon. So basically, Assassin's Creed Infinity is going to have uh, two different games, or two kind of different things in one, which should be interesting. Um, I'm of course a big Assassin's Creed fan. The last couple of weekends, I have been heavily playing Assassin's Creed Black Flag because you know it's a wonderful game, and I want to prep a little bit for kind of getting in the mood for Skull and Bones. Um, and of course, it's just an amazing game. Which I would argue that Assassin's Creed Black Flag is probably one of the best pirate games of all time. Um, and I know that there's some people out there who would probably want to fight me over that and say that what's that one by Microsoft? Sea of Thieves. Um, I have a love hate relationship with Sea of Thieves. Um, I think it's a good yet um, I think it's a good game. So the reason I have a love hate relationship with Sea of Thieves is that I played it at launch, and at launch it was a shell of the game that it is now. Um, which is one of the reasons why like I consistently tell people, um, you know, never judge a game by how it launches. Like, there's a ton of people that are like, oh, New World is a dead game because it's just you know, its launch didn't go well. Well, neither did Final Fantasy 14 Online. Like, but nobody would argue now that Final Fantasy 14 Online is a bad game. Like, it's a great game. You know, uh, like there's so many different games out there that have had terrible launches that have managed to recover really well. Like No Man's Sky, perfect example. No Man's Sky is the case in point of you can have a truly terrible launch and still develop a game that is going to be an exemplary game. You can still hit the vision that you were aiming for, even if you miss it on launch. I think New World has a great set of opportunities in that it is a profitable game. Like, despite the fact that people are like, "Oh, there's so many people that have left the game." Yeah, but that really doesn't matter. Because it's a buy once and then microtransactions after that. Sure, they would have made more money had they have kept 900,000 players playing. But I'm not worried about the solvency of Amazon or Amazon Game Studios because of because of the numbers post launch. It's just not an issue. They sold enough copies to keep the game running for a substantial amount of time, and I think if this last patch has shown anything, it's that the game is obviously getting into a better and better state. Um, it's recovered a chunk of the player base, compared to prior weeks. It's up several thousand, which is always good. You've got queues to get on servers in prime time, which isn't the best of situations, but there are worse things to happen. or there's worse problems to happen. That's for sure. Um, you know, um, and yeah, like I think that there's a lot of stuff that's worth noting, and there's a lot of stuff that I know is coming. You know, you look at Brimstone Sands. We know Brimstone Sands is coming up because it's on the roadmap. Um, it's going to be huge. You know, I need to correct a statement that I made a couple weeks ago. A couple weeks ago, I said that Brimstone Sands was about the size of Ebonscale Reach. I have been corrected, and the math equates out to something akin to uh, something akin to Shattered Mountain, Great Cleave, and about half of Eden Grove in size. So, putting that into perspective, think about how many points of interest are in those areas, think about what can be added, and realize that that is a huge addition to the map. We believe we're not certain on this, but we do believe that it is going to be a player-controlled territory. So it'd be another territory that you know people will consistently fight over, and as it will be targeted at the end game. We know it's going to be targeted at the end game because they've talked about that in the past. It's probably going to be one of the most desirable zones to own. Yes, so it is just north of Ebonscale Reach. So if you go up and left from Ebonscale Reach, I actually have a I have an outdated map. I have a map. This is the benefits of having a entire library on the Discord of various images and maps and etc. So I know that there are ones that are more recent than this. Um, but this is the one I can find relatively quickly. This comes out of the player files. So this is Ebonscale Reach right here. And then it goes up, and this area, I realize that you can't really see it all that well. The area that I'm putting my menu here. This area will be Brimstone Sands. So, let's see if I can get. Here we go. There's another way to, so these three zones, ballpark, about half of Eden Grove, Shattered Mountain, Great Cleave, basically added on to this area. So each of the different colors on this particular map indicate zones for different NPCs, for spawning areas, as well as vegetation areas. So, for instance, if we flip back to the other one, this is a very highly detailed map, so you can see kind of what spawns where for different NPCs, as well as the trees around the fort and stuff like that. So I think the other thing that we know about this as well is that there is going to be a new expedition that comes out at the same time. Uh, at least we hope it'll come out at the same time. Seeing as the Barnacles and Black Powder expedition got delayed, you know, hopefully it does choose it. It can be released at the same time. That would be awesome. I have a feeling it won't be this month, because if it was, a patch of this size would probably already be in PTR. So like I don't think that we're gonna get Brimstone Sands this month. I think that it's more likely next month. And from there, I think that we're gonna see uh, at least a month of PTR for this one, because it is going to be a um, rather large expansion. So yeah, like some of the other kind of cool things to note about Brimstone Sands is that it should bring in some new enemy types. Um, in the past, we have seen some leaked images of things like scorpions and other things. It is a desert biome, which we don't have. So I think it's pretty safe to say that we're going to get some NPCs to match that. Um, they have confirmed that a there will not be a level cap bump, so it's staying at 625 for Brimstone Sands, which I think is the right move. 625 is already kind of a pain to get to for most people, and as people come back to play the new content, getting to 625 is going to be a little bit of a chore for many people. I personally think when they launch this patch that they're going to have a significant issue uh, dealing with returning players and server size, so like server caps. So I sincerely hope that there's a plan for dealing with those server caps, um, so that we're not all waiting, massive queues to get in and play the game and enjoy the new expansion. I made it to 5:30. Yeah, I think I've got 5 or 6 more weapons to get to 600. And um, I've got most of the rest of my gear to. The gear that I consistently use is at I believe 625 now. The gear that I'm looking to use in the future, still kind of leveling it to 600, and yeah. As I've always said, I play a few other games, so like I'm a little bit behind as well. Um, when is it due to come out? So they haven't officially announced other than this fall, but we can assume that they don't want to pair it with another event, um, per se. So like we know of several events that are upcoming. We know that there is going to be the Halloween event. There's going to be the Thanksgiving event, and then there's the winter event. So it's either got to come out in September or the beginning of or with the Halloween event. So overall good question on when it's going to be. I think personally it's going to be probably next month, and we'll probably see a um, PTR beginning of next month, with the launch hopefully at the end of the month. That would be my
Apologies, that
guess.
took so long.
That's right.
It seems my internet is now functioning correctly.
Good. Good to hear.
Yeah. And oh yeah, sorry. Yeah. Here we go. As demonstrated by my actual ability to turn on video now. So that's great. But yeah, I apologize. I missed what was being talked about.
Now we're talking a bit about Brimstone Sands.
Ah, yes. Okay.
Just gonna get everything going here.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure that What's up?
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Now we're both on TV here.
Yay!
Good times. Um,
Excellent.
so basically, like I fully expect that Brimstone Sands will come out with either next month or the month after. I know that that's obviously a large window. Um, but like timeline wise, that's the only time that really makes sense. Um, and then from there, once that's out, I would expect shortly after to see a roadmap for what the plan is for next year. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see what else they bring with it. They
Mm-hmm.
mentioned the Great Sword is on the roadmap, so maybe that comes
Yes.
out with it. That's another one that I'm greatly looking forward to. Um, you know, who doesn't like hitting stuff with a big stick? You know,
Exactly, right?
like nothing like running over to your I think there's an in-person event in EU for Brimstone and GS. Maybe.
I don't know.
I
I
am
mean,
unaware
Brimstone
of their
gets mentioned
plans.
in the lore. Does get mentioned in the lore every so often, and like events or things that are like up there in Brimstone. I haven't heard of anything specifically in terms of in-person events, and I have kind of looked through the forums for any official kind of word from any devs about just any kind of in-person event. But yeah, because you can't even get to Brimstone. Like there is a pain barrier that nobody can get through. That prevents you from actually getting to Brimstone.
Yeah,
Obviously,
according to
that barrier
Baggins
has
TV.
been
Yeah.
that barrier has actually been breached by certain people using certain kind of let's just say uh, interesting non-normal methods, but nothing official. Mm.
Yeah.
My
I
nose
mean, we
itches
we
like
know
crazy
that
now.
we
So,
know that the Great Sword is the next one out the door.
oh.
That's on the roadmap. Like they that is a confirmed like in development thing.
Hmm.
Uh, that said, we don't know that it's strength based. That's not
Yeah,
been
well, I mean,
confirmed yet.
you would think that with it being a sword, it would be strength based of
So
some form.
my thought is that it might be constitution based
Why would it be constitution based though? Like,
because it's a great sword. You got to be pretty buff
mm,
to
mm,
you know
that just no, that just
like
I mean,
imagine
pretty
a
buff means
gnome
strength.
using a great sword.
Yeah,
You got
I
to be a
know, but
pretty
like,
big,
but I mean,
large
ha,
constitution person to
have you
wield it.
have you ever fought somebody of a smaller, of a shorter stature as such, of a particularly short stature as such? You ever wrestled with anybody who like that? Like they are strong as they are really really strong. It's like you take
But it's
the
about
strength of
physics
a
though.
normal person and you condense it and and during that condensing of that strength, it like ramps up like crazy.
I'm not saying I
Like
wouldn't give him a gladius and expect him to do well. I'm saying I wouldn't give him a 7 foot long sword and expect a 4'2" person to be able to
I
wield
mean
that in a coherent manner.
not saying that like not saying that New War's going to go down the Final Fantasy realm, but like Final Fantasy is all about that, like that huge ass sword. You know, yeah, they're all about that.
Like I mean, I gotta feel that like look at the Warhammer. You know, like
Hmm.
I think that's the perfect example of uh, the art style, and they have to make it distinct from the swords that are out there now. So it
Hmm.
can't be, it can't just be a longsword. It has to be an
It can't
actual
be.
great sword, which makes me think they're gonna go the Final Fantasy, big ass paddle
Potentially.
sword, um, or like
I
anime
I
level
mean,
blade size,
at
um,
least it has like at least it has alternative uses. Like, if you are stuck in a boat, you do have a giant paddle. But then again, that amount of steel, in a small boat is likely to just like
it's going to
sink
tip
it.
some
Really,
things.
like it's gonna tip.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know that the temperature in the UK is down to sort of acceptable levels because, Brits can still have cups of tea.
Yes. And I'd love to
But
see them go like just crazy with new weapons. Um, like we know that there's other ones in development. Based on some of the stuff that we saw in the code last year, and what we know exists based on our experience in the alphas and what was presented via press weeks and stuff like that early in the process. We know that clubs are a thing. We know that knives are very much a thing, and are like daggers are a thing, I should say. Uh, let's see, we know the blunderbuss is a thing because that's already out.
what's that?
Uh,
What's that sort of? I hate to call it specifically a Chinese or Oriental weapon kind of thing.
it's
Like kind of
the
like
pole
the
stab or the
no,
naginata.
not the naginata, like the sort of like the like kind of ball on a chain or like blade on a chain kind of thing. Um,
Uh,
and I saw that on I don't know why, but like Kill Bill kind of it reminds me of like there's one of the sort of like the minor sort of evil or the minor sort of like villains had that kind of thing, and it was pretty cool. There was some cool and interesting moves and stuff that you could do with it, and I thought that would be quite an interesting thing to have in something like New World. Might be some awkward scenarios where the physics doesn't really like work with it, but yeah.
didn't
I
PvP just got its own patch? Like they've just got the expansion, like the full PvP XP, PvP
Well,
salt,
actually,
like
so
and arenas were
yes,
all added.
yes, there might be some some community sort of discontent in regards to PvP that we are might actually end up talking about in the main show.
Like I think what's needed right now is, as much as I enjoy the PvP, I think what's needed right now is a big content pass to add in a bunch of new stuff. And I mean, like, obviously coming in, I, I believe I
The
haven't
last
actually
patch
checked the
was like,
notes.
well, I mean, the way I kind of see it is the bump in player concurrent player you know stats very much showcases that there is the pre like the summer medley fair patch was had a decent amount of stuff to keep people playing and to keep people around and doing stuff for longer periods than just a few days or a week because like you know last week we were still riding high on a 5k concurrent player bump. That's nothing to to turn your nose up against. um
and I think that's
so
gonna
yeah,
get. I think it's gonna get better over time as well. Like now
I
that
hope
Black
so.
Powder is out, the new expedition's out.
Yeah.
The still not out, but the Expedition Group Finder is
Mm,
another big one that's coming. Um,
yeah.
I know for some people that's like, oh, who cares? Like I could just find a group in chat. For those of us that are tired of waiting in chat, that just want to make our own group, um, and have that process be a bit streamlined, I think that that's a
Yeah,
much welcomed addition to the game.
there's also and you have to kind of see it look at this from other perspectives to kind of see a bit of an issue where something like a an expedition group finder would really help is, in certain regions there are, there were specific language servers that were combined into servers that weren't specifically that particular, that particular language. So, you now have people wandering around who can't really communicate that well, or are at least maybe potentially trying to communicate at least as much as they can with people who don't speak the same language as they do. Um, and something like an expedition group finder will really help with breaking through that, and being able to allow people who may not be able to communicate uh, fluently with being able to actually set up a group that goes into an expedition. So I think that's useful. I think that's worthwhile, and I think that is a point in case where the expedition group finder is an extremely useful tool that will help people do things that they couldn't get done via the group chat or the global chat.
Yes.
Yeah.
Um, one thing I too am hoping that they're going to add is some way to manage gear sets. Um, you know, just even being able to just identify them um, in a better way than just this is locked. Well, okay, why is it locked? What was I gonna? What set is this for? You know, as well as like some kind of transmog system, um, like would also be a huge boon. Just checking on a couple of things here, getting a couple of pings from various sources.
Oh, okay.
Um, so let's see. So we know that there's going to be some cool stuff coming. There's already been some cool stuff that's happened very recently. I think most people would state that New World is in as good a place as it's ever been. Um, like it's incredibly healthy right now. You get a lot of people still going, hey, is it worth coming back? Yes, now was the time to come back. Um, get in, get your gear score up. Especially with Brimstone Sands coming out. In the next couple of months, getting your gear score up so that you can actually participate in that content is actually going to be really important. Like I would not
Yeah.
understate the importance of getting your gear score up now versus waiting.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see. So Brimstone Sands, when you kind of look at the area of the map, like, um, and you can do that offline by going to something like newworlddatabase.info. By the way, that's definitely not what I'm like literally typing in right now. Because obviously, as with anything that's helpful with in terms of New World, having decent map for New World is critical. But kind of looking at the area that Brimstone is going to sort of uh, going to be in. I mean, it does have a little bit of. Um, I mean, you know, what's the actual images that we had of Brimstone? We need to find those now.
I showed him a little bit earlier.
Yeah. Um, did it like so? I'm drawing a blank here, but did it? Was there actual coastline for Brimstone?
Yes.
There was like actual accessible coastline, not just cliff face.
I mean, it's about as clear as the map is. That's
Well, I know, yeah, it's difficult to basically determine whether that's a cliff face or whether that's um, a beach or not, or whether whether that's a very thin beach or whether that's not a beach at all. But like, um, I was kind of wondering because, like, if it doesn't have any beaches, then it's, you know, by extension, not having any beaches, it's definitely not going to be like any kind of new, um, sort of new player area or new or area where new players can actually end up like, you know, having a new spawn spot. So in that case, with it being that high up and that close to sort of to um, you know, non-conquerable territory, it's probably going to be very high level,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I think the devs have actually confirmed that it's going to be end game content. Um,
Oh, okay.
like, and it wouldn't surprise me if it was something like 60 plus. Um, yeah, that wouldn't surprise me at all if it was entirely aimed above.
Oh, okay. Oh, bless you, mate.
Uh, it wouldn't surprise me at all if it was aimed above the normal level.
Mm,
Um, almost in exclusively built for endgame would be my assumption.
yeah.
Trying to find the map in like one of our channels.
Yeah, it's super difficult to actually tell, like, whether there's difficult to actually tell whether that's coastline or whether that's just it backing up onto what appears to be just like sand dunes or something.
And
Because at the moment you have what is, I mean, you have on the left-hand side of the map, you have a kind of what is a an estuary slash kind of you know, an estuary or sort of I don't know how you want to sort of, you know, how you what you want to call it, but like kind of like an estuary or sort of like a fjord going up, um, with areas of the map that's you know, obviously not available to us on the opposite side of that particular fjord or estuary. But then it kind of like goes into what appears to be sort of, you know, a very significant um, beach. By that I mean just sand dunes. Um,
yeah, and
and I think
I think what
the
we're gonna see is like all of the white area here is
yeah,
probably deserts, if I had to guess,
yeah,
because it's the only
okay,
time it's seen on the map. And then
yeah,
from there, you've got kind of like the Nile River coming up the middle here, and
okay, okay,
rivers with kind of lush stuff around them, and then
yeah.
nothing
No, that
else.
makes sense with the that kind of makes sense with the colorings as well. Yeah, to some
Yeah.
degree.
Uh,
Okay.
Now, and as I said earlier, like to scope this area wise, um, this area is about the same size as the Great Cleave, um, Shattered Mountain, and about half of Eden Grove. So, like,
mm,
again, pretty
it's a
massive
big
addition.
area. Yeah, it's a big area for sure. Definitely haven't spotted what looks to be like a bit of a, you know, strange looking dog's head, a happy dog in the
If you honestly think they gave up on this game, then you have not been following the development of the game. Like, sorry,
yeah. Yeah.
frankly, you just haven't. Like, straight up, this game has received more development
Well,
in the last year than like I shit. Like, you compare it
there's
against games
yeah.
like Eve Online, it's infinitely more developed in a year
Well,
than
I
some
think
of the
there's a lot of
longest running
games that
MMOs
are
out there.
I think there's a lot of games that are a lot more developed over the last few
Eve is
years
not
that
free.
yeah,
If you
Eve is
honestly think that Eve Online is free, you've been
Eve
sold a
is
bill of goods and you are not competitive in the actual game of Eve Online.
Eve is freemium. That's the model that they're doing.
Yeah,
Freemium, right? Which basically means, yeah, you can play it for free, but like you're gonna when you come up against anybody who is paying for Eve, they're gonna basically, you know, wipe the floor with you
yeah,
essentially. Unless you
yeah,
know exactly what you're doing and you have a lot of friends as
yeah.
well, like
Both
you
McLeod and
know,
I are Eve retired Eve players, And we can tell you
I
for
yeah,
certain that if you don't pay for Eve,
yeah.
or if you don't play enough to plex your game, which at this point is an incredible chore, uh, yeah, copium
Yeah,
over. Yeah,
I
no,
mean,
dude, you clearly don't know what you're talking about if you think this game's not receiving massive amounts of development. Like,
I mean,
sorry, like
it's
you're
still
pulling the wool over your own
I
eyes,
mean,
and
it's. I mean, New World's still blowing up GPUs. I'm sure. Probably according to Stunner, he would definitely believe that that GPUs are still being blown up by New
uh,
World, right? I'm sure that's still happening. Isn't it, Stunner? Like I'd love to know. I'd love to know how you feel about that. Like whether you still think that that's happening.
like
But like in terms of Eve, like I mean, I've been playing Eve since 2009. Like I've done countless shows, and developed countless shows and produced countless shows about Eve Online. I do talk shows every Saturday about like Eve Online, like and chat about various different things related to it. Like you know, when it comes to Eve, I feel like I'm more of an expert than most sort of general streamers when it comes to it. So yeah, and Ace is kind of pretty much the same. Like I mean, how long have you been playing Eve, or how long had you been playing Eve until you genuinely decided that you were going to win Eve by
uh,
not playing Eve? That is.
13 years.
There you go. You know.
Yeah. 13 years, ended playing Eve somewhere in the ballpark of 4.5 trillion isk. You know, uh, so
Mm.
like I can tell you, you don't make that kind of money if you're not subbed to the game, and generally
You see
speaking,
though,
you're not going to pull ahead unless you put
you
in
see
significant money to begin with.
Yeah, and you see the funny thing is like, and I understand people having their own their own views on certain things, but like saying that both games are dog shit. Um, you know, Eve does have its failures for sure, especially in recent years. But saying that Eve is a dog shit game, yet it still holds its own against say things like New World after almost 20 years. It is like you can't hold a community at a game for 20 years when it's dog shit all the way through. Like Eve Eve does things that no other games do. Um, Partly down to the fact that so many people have invested time and energy and effort into it, but also because the developers have not completely destroyed like all of that effort and all of that like goodwill by the community. So saying that it's a dog shit game is like you're being very very cynical and very very short sighted as well. Because like there's been a lot of companies that have tried to make and are trying to make the next Eve.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's not as easy as you know make a space game, make it look pretty, and uh, don't treat your community like bullshit, like dog shit. Like there is a lot more to it. But I see that Stunner doesn't want to talk about the GPU kind of situation in New World.
Considering it was never
That's
actually a
interesting.
problem, you know. Like
Well, don't give it
the reality
away.
is a lot
Don't
of
give it
people have
away there,
opinions.
man.
You know, a lot of
They
people have opinions about New World that are based on big streamers saying something that they frankly don't know what they're talking about, and
yeah,
then it gets parroted and parroted and parroted. You know, because people believe that when somebody has 60,000 people watching them, that they're somehow speaking from a point of you know advanced knowledge.
yeah.
Um, Not
Well,
pointing
that
to
is
any
not the case.
specific person there, but because again, there would be a number of content creators who would fit that bill. um, that
Can you
frankly
make
say a lot of things that are just patently wrong. You know, and I think oftentimes what people don't understand is that most MMOs launch. The launch is not overly done well, um, and then the game slowly recovers, builds in new content, and becomes competitive over time. Look at Final Fantasy XIV.
Mhm.
If anybody here honestly thinks that the Final Fantasy XIV online um, release was quality and that didn't
all
have the
roses and
same the same level of release as New World, then I have swampland in Florida to sell you because clearly you're gullible as shit. Like, you know, uh,
uh,
like I like again, it's one of those things where it's like
uh,
that's just that's just the reality. Like Final Fantasy IV's launch was so bad, and everybody forgets that, and they're like, oh, uh, now it's you know now it's a much better game. They've had a chance to fix many of the issues that it had at launch, and I would argue that New World is in the exact same boat. You know,
yeah.
they have done a phenomenal job at fixing stuff. Like,
The other thing is like, like even if a game is aimed at a certain crowd, like, that crowd is going to get invested in it. And it depends on how long that particular game like lasts. Like, if it's like Eve, I know people who were FCing fleets when they were 13. They're now like 23, 24, like 25. Like, they're going they're getting into their careers and stuff. Like they're through university and all that kind of stuff. Like, you know, it's not a case of like, oh, and that's one of the things about MMOs as well is MMOs, especially persistent MMOs, like, they're meant to
so
persist for a long period of time. You can't
Stunna,
just
do you know
you
anything
can't.
actually about the dev team? Like, legitimately, like you appear to be parroting a very specific content creator's bullshit over and over
Yeah,
again, and like to the point where I could almost tell you which creator. Like,
yeah,
the dev
yeah,
team sure has had their challenges, but you're talking about a game, as with every game out there at this point, games with millions upon millions of lines of code. You know, uh, okay, you're.
yeah.
I'm sorry, you're done.
Yeah. It's so just
You
so you
you
everyone out
clearly
there
have
kind of
not
knows.
watched the
No, no, no,
patch
no,
notes
no, no.
because this is
Stunner is, just showcasing for everybody out there. Like I know, like in say for example, anybody watching this back kind of thing, um, might not watch the stream chat. Like depends whether you watch it on Twitch or whether you watch it on YouTube. But essentially, Stunner is doing that classic example, like showcasing a classic example of arguing in bad faith.
Mhm.
He doesn't actually have any specific, any specific arguments. He's just parroting other people's, parroting what he's heard from other content creators about stuff.
Yeah,
You know,
like it's comical.
it is. It's comical. It's completely comical because it is so shallow as well. That's the thing.
Welcome back.
But that's the thing. Like, we may not be, one like, we not may we getting tongue tied. We may not be the sort of content creators that that hold extreme views about certain things. We're not the ones that like smacking our desks and going, "This game is fucking trash," etc., etc., and not offering any particular reasons as to why we feel that it's trash, or offering any kind of points as to how the game may be better or may be worse, or offering up reasons why the game may be may have issues with certain areas because of how they set it up, or what's going on with priorities at the actual at the development studio and stuff. But
So
like,
yes, we know that they moved to Unreal 5 for the next MMO. We're very
yeah,
well aware of that. We actually covered that on our show 2 weeks ago.
But that's a
Um,
different studio.
well, yes,
Like
but like if for
it's not like
future games, they are moving away from the lumberyard system, which
yeah, but
the
that's only
version of the
because
version of the engine that they're using at this point is no longer referred to uh, as lumberyard. It's also not referred to as the open source engine. It's actually the Azoth engine because it has again been, you know, a far enough bastardization away from the original that it's its own thing.
hmm
So, but yeah. Now, as and we've said this a dozen times before, it probably would have been, but you can do whatever you want in a year from now. We've been doing this for 3 years almost, so like, feel free to look back. You know,
yeah, exactly.
and we've said in the past, yeah, it probably wasn't the best idea for them to build their own engine. It
And
probably wouldn't have been better for them to go with
and
Unreal 5.
and
Um,
you know what's hilarious is that, and I can tell that Stunner is not a watcher of this show in any kind of long form. He would know that, like, we criticize the game, we criticize the devs. We go on big tirades about criticizing the devs. In actual fact, there's various different points in the show where I am specifically showcasing and affirming and reaffirming certain aspects of the game that have have a lot of a lot of issue and need a lot of work.
if you listen to what
You
we
know,
said, we never
but
said the
that's the
game
thing.
was 100% the perfect game, the best thing ever launched. We said the game was in the best position that it's ever been in. That is a very different statement than what you're saying.
Yeah, I try not to put statements in absolutes, because if you put statements in absolute form, then you basically just
Yeah,
you paint yourself into a corner, and then you can't get out of it because people will will come at you saying like, oh yeah, you said this game was great. Well, we never said the game was great.
yeah. Now, in terms of being able to hire new developers, the underlying code language is the CryEngine. It's still very
Yeah.
similar. However, as with any game, at this state, it is, of course, a substantial challenge to understand the code base as a whole, uh, which is one of the challenges that games like EVE Online have, where the original
Mhm.
game was created without any annotations in the code, which made it even harder
Not
to
only
read
that,
and understand and figure out what switch and toggle does what.
not
Um,
only that, but like one of the devs who was writing that code, unfortunately, and such a shame, ended up actually getting hit by a bus. So yeah.
no, the teeth, I agree. Yeah. Um, and the reality is, New World is also, as Narvesh7 here says, New World stands out in the combat. It's not a tab target MMO. It's an action MMO where aiming matters, where skill matters. It's not just a can I time my abilities, can I, do all of these other things at just the right time. It's, you know, can
Is it
I
perfect?
actually make this work in a way that is,
Is it
action
perfect?
based?
No.
Yeah.
Is it better than Dark Souls? No. Like, but then again, Dark Souls has a lot less moving pieces and a lot less kind of, exceptions to what it needs to do than New World. Like, you're not fighting, 25 or 50 other people in Dark Souls. Like, when you are, like, and when Dark Souls gets to that point, then call me. Then call me. Call A's.
Yeah, we'll
Like,
come play.
and we'll come play it, and we'll come see how
Yeah,
it fares compared to 50 on 50s in New World.
yeah. Yeah. Now, I would argue that the reality here is that New World is in, like, just it's in a phenomenal state right now. Like, it really is. Like, the new content being added is fun. The music system is another fun addition to things. Like, the buffs from it are actually meaningful. Uh, the
Mm.
new expedition is quite a bit of fun. Had some fun with that recently. Before that, they added the Heart of Darkness expedition, with Isabella, which was actually really fun as well. Um, on top of that, they've made a dozen other changes. The summer event, the Medley Fair, has actually gone off with very little issues. Like, there was an issue with the Azoth vials that was kind of a pain in the ass for a few days, but they fixed that. And like the event itself is actually quite good. The winter event was another phenomenal one. There are many things that they're doing right. There are obviously times where they miss the mark, and I think that uh, people need to understand that that's not specific to one studio. Like if you look at CCP games with Eve Online. If you want an example of how to miss the mark consistently and somehow still have people play your game, Eve Online still exists somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's saying Eve Online is dead. Most of them are saying it's dying, but that's a whole different story.
But the funny thing is, there is a trope in Eve where like people have said
yeah,
since it started that Eve is
yeah.
dying.
Eve's
So
been dying for 20 years.
yeah, exactly.
Uh, it's just a really long
um,
bleed.
yes,
And
god
yeah,
damn,
like
this
the
is a long
Expedition
bleed.
Finder is going to be a phenomenal addition to the game.
Yeah, yeah,
The
cool.
the move to put wars on instances is another really big move that like people can't see the benefit of that yet, but in the long term, it's going to create the opportunity for the 50v50 wars to be something similar to Outpost Rush, where you can queue up for it and it'll just go. Additionally, having region-wide queues is something that's being worked on in the background, which takes a lot of time.
Yep.
You know, Now, are they ever going to get back to a million people playing at one time? Of course not. Like, it would be unreasonable to expect launch level hype from
I
any
would
game ever. Like,
I would like to I would like I'd love if somebody could actually give an example of a game that launched that like launched with a decent amount of hype, like not launched as in like it did a shadow launch that nobody fucking saw, but what I'm saying is like if it launched with a decent amount of hype, like I would love to see if there's any game out there that has gotten back to that launch level amount of concurrent players, because I've never seen a graph of concurrent player
is there actually a graph
thing that
of
keep.
concurrent
I've
players, not player accounts,
not player accounts.
not monthly active players, concurrent players for World of Warcraft? Because I have yet to see one. And this is
Yeah, like
actually one of the
Blizzard.
challenges when it comes to MMOs is that frankly there are not a lot of actual games out there that have this kind of transparency. Like most of them
Yeah,
have their own client. And you
yeah,
don't have
it's
to run it
crazy.
through Steam, which means you're not tracked. So it's not generally speaking a public viewed thing. New World is one of the few that is Steam specific, and its concurrent users are seen. However, the things that it doesn't show are monthly active users, daily active users, and etc. You know,
And the funny thing is, like, I'll what was the game that we were talking about that has like that they're redesigning entirely and they're like relaunching?
Lost Oasis.
Yeah,
Lost Oasis is a perfect example of an
yeah,
MMO that
Lost
also
Oasis.
went to shit. It went so bad that
Yeah,
even the developers of Lost Oasis thought the game was shit. You know,
yeah. If you want an example of a game that crashed harder than New World, there you go, Lost
uh,
Oasis.
uh, Now, another game that has gone literally the same trajectory as New World is Final Fantasy XIV, and not a single person in here would argue that Final Fantasy XIV is not a fantastic game right now. Simply put,
I would be surprised if
mm-hmm.
a certain individual in chat has not heard of Last Oasis. In
um,
all honesty, like you know, I think that
give
is
me
very
chat.
that is
You
bad
can
faith.
probably find
You
one.
know,
Give me a MMO that is based in Steam that has a different concurrent user chart than New World. And frankly, most games have the same chart.
Yeah.
You know, like it's basically the same thing on almost every game, including these massive AAA games. Um, you know, it that because that's just how it works. Um,
Funny thing is, like, talking
yeah,
about.
people focus way too much on the player counts, and partly because, again, New World is in this very specific category that there are not very many other MMOs that actually have the ability or have the openness like a game on Steam, New World, for example, or Lost Ark, for example, that have had basically the same chart. Now, Lost Ark
Mhm.
has maintained a player base. That said, it's highly questionable that they've actually maintained it because I'm still seeing a fuckload of bots. You know, so that's very much a thing. Like one could argue that it's still you know uh, that it's still maybe 100,000, and they peaked at 1.4 million concurrent users. So like you know, that's kind of big. Like
Mhm.
it is what it is. Like it's great that they have these great huge launches, but again, it's you, people are going to play it. There are going to be a group of people that play it all the way to its conclusion, and go, okay, hey, I'm going to move on to other games, which is natural. Like that is the new game hype of everything. Let's use Destiny 2 as an example here.
Mhm.
Now, before anybody jumps down my throat, I realize that Destiny 2 is not an MMO. Um,
So
and
this,
the
and this
word
is
of the
the
day
thing.
is going to be bite me.
Yeah, the
Because
word of the day
yeah.
is going to be bite me, and the word of the day is, for anybody who is, arguing in bad faith, nothing will be an acceptable comparison or comparator. There will always be problems. There will always be issues. There will always be like, oh, but this, oh, but that, etc., etc., etc. And
So
the thing is,
if you
there
go
is
from
never.
go from all-time high peak on Steam, uh 292,000
Mhm.
to now, like that's a pretty significant drop. But wait, that looks pretty fucking close to the same. Minor content drop, major content drop, people come back, play the new content, leave. Play the new content, leave. Play the new
Yeah.
content, leave. Play the new content, leave. And it's because other games come out. As somebody, and thank you for the sub, by the way. Like we are like actually like we do enjoy like as confrontational as we can be. Like our objective is actually to be
To to
like I
to
love
to
debating. Like if people don't know
yeah.
that about me yet, like I love debating because like I used to be on the debate team and all that in high school and college and all that. Like um the thrill of the argument is always fun to me. Anyways, like this is the new cadence of how things work. You see this in every major game. People will come in mass for the new content, they'll play it, and they'll slowly drift away to other games because other games are coming out that are equally interesting. You know, and
There's
I'm a
also.
prime example of this. I just went back and played Assassin's Creed Black Flag for 2 weekends straight. You know,
Yeah, yeah. So
like
the only time that this breaks is when the content, like the major part of the content that people enjoy in the game, is not derived from content updates. So like, we were talking about Eve Online before. Eve Online's like concurrent player graph does not look like that. And the reason why it doesn't look like that is because content in EVE Online is based entirely around players creating the content by killing each other and cooperating and building things with each other. So it's like it's not really derived from content updates, even though the developer does actually produce content updates every so often.
yeah.
But yeah,
Now there are
that's
there
that's
are
the
there are some
exception to the
games
rule.
out there, like for instance, Apex Legends. You you can see, hey, patches come in, game gets better, people start playing it. Now,
Oh yeah, no, that's
you know,
pretty good. Yeah.
their average player numbers have not dropped all that much, but you can see after each patch they bring back some people that played before, bring in some new people, some hype gets rebuilt, and then it drops off again. New patch, drops off. New patch, drops off. New patch, drops off. It's not as extreme for them because they're actually doing a really, really phenomenal job with Apex Legends. It's like I know I've come back to Apex Legends as well. Um, it's an enjoyable game. You look at almost any other game out there. I'm trying to actively avoid Lost Ark because everybody knows what that one looks like. Like um,
yeah, there's there was a
shit,
sudden bite
Ark
taken out of it,
Survival.
like recently.
240,000 peak.
Last 2 months ago. That's
Has
nothing
it really been out that
to
long?
laugh about. It has been out there for a long time.
Yeah. So it's like
Yeah.
you can tell when the content drops are because content drop, content drop, content drop, content drop. Big content patch with apparently some media hype here, and then huge drop off. Because people play the new content and then they leave again. Like, let's use everybody loved Valheim last summer. Like, it was a phenomenal game.
Yeah.
Now I fully like, again, before anybody gives me shit on this, like I fully understand that these are not MMOs. Like, but what I'm showcasing is a trend that most players come and go from games consistently. Like that's just how players are these days. Now, despite having a amazing summer, it dropped off. Kept dropping. They had a content release, people came back, dropped off. And now it's down to, similar levels as New World. And there's technically no end to the like having played, a decent amount of Valheim, like I can tell you, like there's really no end to it. You just keep building and building and building, and it's like it's a really fun game, and there's a lot of like hidden stuff to do. Like there's always new stuff, but again, you gotta.
I think at this point we've labored this point
yes.
enough.
We are also 18 minutes over into starting the actual show.
I was gonna say, and I yeah.
And we have not a short show at that, but
there's a lot of stuff that we want to talk about in the show. So
yes, there is. So with that, we're going to kick it to our intro video. Then we'll start the actual show. We do enjoy the discussion with you guys. So like legit, that's it is fun. So we'll see you guys on the other side of the intro. All right, welcome everybody to the NWO Show, your source for MMO news and coverage. Tonight, of course, we have news around New World, Lost Ark, and Star Citizen again. And if you
As is
caught the
always the case.
pre-show, it was quite the show. We were starting about 20 minutes behind schedule because we were really engaged with the topic that we were on, and had some
Yeah.
great fun with it. Um, as always, we appreciate, this is a talk show, so like, obviously, like, we don't have a call in line, so the stream chat is something that we monitor and actively converse with. So like, if we don't get to what you said, it's not that we didn't see it, it's that we are potentially behind schedule, or uh, just
We're
trying to
hoping to
push
get to it at
to
some
the
point.
next topic, or something like that. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
So as we always do, we talk about where we were last week to make sure that the context is there for where we're going in the future, which I believe is actually really important. It lets us say, hey, like, this is what had just started, so that people can turn around and go, okay, hey, yeah, I get that. Now let's see where it goes from there.
Mm-hmm.
So in New World last week, we had the update that officially added the Barnacles and Black Powder expedition to New World, and the new Twitch drop landed for people to pick up. It's still ongoing. If you want to make sure that your counter on Twitch has started, use !drops or chat anything in chat. It helps Twitch validate that you are actually watching, and it starts the 4-hour timer of watching streams in the New World channel to actually get the thing. So that is important. New World was riding the concurrent player bump from the Summer Medley Fair patch, which showed there was sufficient content and things to do to keep players entertained, at least for a few weeks so far. We had an announcement that there was going to be a 5v5 player-run tournament casted by 2 streamers with a prize pool. Yet the casters' streams of it seem to be non-existent. So
we'll get to that in the show for sure.
We have not been able to find them.
We
Let's
found
see.
some stuff, but yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah. So the Expedition Group Finder was further delayed, and they put out a call for people to assist with testing on it. Basically, they don't want to release it until they know that it's not going to A, crash the server, or B, be a subpar experience. Obviously, they want it to be something that enhances the game and doesn't detract from the game. It's not a critical piece, however, it is a piece that is going to make a lot of people's lives substantially easier when it does launch in a working condition. That said, if you want to assist testing it, please download the PTR and give it a go. It's in a lot better state than it has been in the past, but again, as with everything, it should go through a rigorous testing phase, and if it doesn't meet the quality standards for being put into the game, then it should get delayed, and they did the right thing by delaying it. To some people are obviously annoyed by that, but it is what it is. There's also a ton of other things in development behind the scenes that are, potentially making that take a little while. The Group Expedition Finder. I just covered that one. We dived into some community surfaced issues, specifically regarding the sale of M10 expeditions, and how that is actually a really annoying thing. And we think that there should be a better way to distribute shards that potentially prevents the sale of completion of the event, or of the M10 expedition. It's not an ideal system the way that it is. So we ended the New World coverage, at least, on some anecdotal evidence of how harsh the gear score grind feels to low level 60s when participating in instanced PvP specifically. Most of this was around Outpost Rush and 3v3s in the arenas. Frankly, it is a bit rough. There's no other way to put it.
There's no other way to put it at all.
And we have noted how the community has openly stated the PvE feels much better for returning players. A lot of times people are coming back, they're posting on the subreddit, they're posting on the forums, and they're stating, hey, I played the game at launch. It was fun then, but didn't have enough to keep me here. And then they're playing now, or they decided to come back and they went, hey, now I don't understand why I left. This is phenomenal. And that is helping showcase that the game is in a much better position. We'll talk a little bit more about gear score and the player sentiment when we get past and into what's happened this week. In Lost Ark news, it was a very, very slow week for Lost Ark last week. It'll be a little bit bigger of a week this week. Just some general bug fixes and some issues where they were resolving some chargeback issues by changing the way that gold transfers work and how fast you can move gold off of characters after using power passes.
There was also some kind of clarification with a practice in the player base known as busing. And whether people were getting suspended because of busing or whether they were being suspended because of RMT.
Yep. If you charge too much for busing, you're going to get probably whacked for RMT.
Yeah.
Because at a certain point, you look like you're RMTing. So from there, Star Citizen, we finally got the opportunity to clear past the whole stipend gate fiasco where they, in the end, finally awarded everyone with 1 million AUEC for their troubles, which may not seem like much, but considering which payment, or considering what payment should have been, was probably more fair for some, less fair for others. It kind of is what it is. Inside Star Citizen had showcased some improvements via the community to make the Snake Pit racetracks. And a few devs wanted to give some life to the convention halls that normally lay dormant throughout the year when they're or when they're not hosting annual events like Invictus Week or Fleet Week or anything like that. Simply put, kind of a cool addition by adding in some go-kart racetrack style stuff, which I personally think is kind of funny. The annual Ship Showdown was announced to be on its way, and the PTU patches continue despite progressively fewer letters in the alphabet remaining. In terms of a game with just an amazing amount of development in it, Star Citizen has again done pretty well on that front.
Yes.
Tons of other news. News and changes. The Bar Citizen is of course ongoing. There are events worldwide happening. Make sure to check out the Bar Citizen website if you're interested in checking those out. A ton of work is being done towards 3.18, including work on the Drake Corsair, the relay system implementation, on the Hammerhead, introducing engineering gameplay to the verse, as well as some unique UI implementation with holographics using the new UI card system. I have a full expectation that this is going to be a much larger addition to the game long term.
Yeah, that was some cool stuff. Not gonna lie, that was some really cool stuff. Yeah. Anyway, that was last week. That was last week's show. So if you want to check that out, definitely check the replay on Twitch for sure. But this week, there's a fair amount of stuff. Maybe even for Lost Ark, in actual fact.
So let's start this off with Tales of Eternum. So we've recently got a lore post called Tales of Eternum, The Heart of the Ocean, which I personally thought was a really cool post. I'm going to post it in here so people can read it.
I thought it was pretty interesting.
It gives off some very barnacles and black powder vibes, and hinting at a possible super rare object for us to uncover. AGS wants us to appreciate all the hard work and graft people.
Yeah, this well then no, this that was a separate kind of thing. But like yeah, the Tales of Eternum stuff
uh,
is kind of interesting because like yeah, you know, it further adds like sort of a lot of mystique and kind of interestingness to the uh you know to the lore of New World. And you know the thing is there's actually a fair amount of the what you would call the story of New World or the history of New World, um, or the history of Eternum, that we haven't uncovered, that hasn't been is yet to still be, you know, uncovered, as we as we progress, as the game progresses, as we get more um, into into New World and into Eternum. Um, but yeah, but other than that, like there was also a post on New World where AGS wanted me to basically appreciate the hard work and graft that people were doing with mounting various different catches throughout the summer medley fair, and they basically wanted to showcase some of the
yeah,
serious one of the sort of like you know some of the serious fishing expertise that was on show. And that was pretty cool. Like
get him about as loud as I can get him.
no. Am I?
Uh,
Oh, hang on. I think I
nope,
know why. I think I know
nope.
why.
Don't change it. Don't change anything.
No, don't change
Don't
anything.
change anything. I got
I
you on
want to
this end.
change a few things. I want to change
No,
a few things. Like,
don't increase your gain. Whatever you do.
okay. I'm not changing my gain. I'm just changing like the volume, and I changed it 5%. 5%. It's nothing. It's fine.
Yep.
It's all good.
I've
But
got
yeah.
I've got you up on the beacon software and all that, so I can
Oh right. Okay. Okay.
edit your
That's
levels and
fair
all
enough.
that.
That's fair
Trying
enough.
to make sure that both him and I are at the same level, and I actually probably need to be toned down because I'm pushing the red here.
Maybe. Maybe. Red's not like I mean all red is bad, but like yeah.
It's definitely up there, so we should be a little
Okay.
bit more equalized now.
Oh yeah, that should be better. A little bit
Yeah.
better. Hopefully, there's better
This is what I
experience for
get
you
for playing
guys.
around with things. So yeah. So moving right along,
Yeah, the
the
one six.
1.6.3 patch came
Yes,
in on Tuesday. Um,
actually fixing a bunch of things that people were, you know, were concerned about on the forums because I was going through the forum, like the dev responses on the forums and a lot of the responses that they were sort of replying to or basically, you know, a lot of it was basically the, you know, oh, this is don't worry, this is being fixed in 163, so don't worry.
yes.
Um,
One of the things that was not noted in the patch notes that was noted on the forums that does appear to have made it in is that the average expertise bump has appeared to increase. So for both outpost
excellent.
rush caches, for world drop cache, or for world drops off of the elite crates, and for gypsum bumps, it appears to have increased, and you will see far fewer 2-point expertise bumps than you have in the past. You can now
Mm,
expect the range to be ballpark anywhere from 2 to about 7 if
that's
you're
nice.
really
That's
lucky.
pretty nice. Yeah,
With the
that's really nice
majority
actually.
of those falling between 3 and 6.
Ooh,
I know that
that's
didn't,
nice.
you know, that'll be a solid bump. As somebody who's been, grinding through that process myself, I'm very much happy with that change. Uh,
Oh yeah. Oh, I can definitely see that. Um, yeah, some of the other additional changes that were actually noted rather than the non-note, the ghost changes that A's just mentioned. There were some fixes for projectiles disappearing in certain instances. Some of the kind of anecdotal kind of stuff regarding that is regarding certain sort of specials like not actually functioning properly in say, for example, barnacles and black powder, or sort of other expeditions. Essentially, you know, things like the sort of poison arrow or the sort of that kind of thing. So essentially, what was potentially happening there was some of those projectiles were actually disappearing before they actually activated or hit anything. So that's one of the reasons why those things weren't functioning. But they seems like AGS have fixed that. It's for certain scenarios. There are a bunch of items that essentially weren't allowing you to remove gems and replace gems. That has now been fixed, and your ability to swap gems has now been re-enabled, which is great. There's a bunch of fixes for like certain perks on items that were essentially incorrect. So those have been corrected, and those perks are now functioning on those items. There were some musical instrument and performance bug fixes, and there was fixes to town projects because some of the town projects, for whatever reason, weren't completing if there was a server crash or server issue whatsoever. And when the server came back up, it was bugged, and certain towns weren't basically getting the upgrades that people had worked for. So now that with the 163 patch, you now have the upgrades functioning properly in the settlements. So anybody who has been working, to those upgrades with the all the various different activities in the Medley Fair event can now get your upgrades, which is great. There was also a pretty major issue that was fixed in the Barnacles and Black Powder expedition. Essentially, there was a big debuff that could occur that would give a player invincibility, which that ain't going to be abused at all, is it? A's.
Yeah.
Suddenly you get invincibility, like, oh right, yeah. And if it persists outside of the expedition, then that obviously causes a massive issue. So that has been fixed for the 163 patch, and that happened on Tuesday, so it's already here. It's already been fixed. And the only other thing really from that patch that was of note was that the light armor that drops in expedition should now have the correct gear score range. So yeah, that's the 163 patch that happened yesterday. But we also got a patch for the PTR.
Yes, so the PTR was updated today up to the current release with live, to one exception. The group finder is live and AGS wants people to test it. So that's if you have the live patch going on as well. Definitely sounds like AGS are confident the feature is at a release quality and want to be okay with. Or basically, they want the players to give it one last kicking of the tires before it makes it to live.
Yeah.
So go forth onto the PTR, give it a good run through, make sure it works, and yeah. I would imagine that we'll get a PTR update probably at the end of the month or middle of next month for Brimstone Sands. So like, start looking forward to that if you're big on any kind of testing, or if you just want to try out the new content early. Like
one of the things that we were
that soon.
Yeah, one of the things we were talking about last week was how the content patches may end up landing, and considering what they had planned for the end of the year, there were obviously certain events that they were going to be, that they were clearly going to be hitting at certain times of the in the last 3 or 4 months, and if we were looking at it in terms of like an even cadence to the end of the year, the only thing that's missing is like something happening in September. And so, the only thing that's not hammered down on a particular kind of time in between now and the end of the year is essentially the sort of like the release of Brimstone Sands. and so this must be something that we concluded was probably going to come at the early part, like sort of in the sort of September October kind of range, potentially maybe sort of in the PTR in September and released at the end of September. So that's what we're thinking, and so we're thinking that any update to the PTR after after all of this, um, after the group finder, expedition group finder, would likely be uh, revolving around Brimstone Sands. So yeah, interesting times ahead in the PTR.
Yes. Let's see. Then from there, from the 12th to the 14th, AGS is granting yet again bonuses for fishing and musical instrument XP gain by a factor of 2.
Well, that
Additionally,
was
there
last
appears to
weekend.
be a change in the curve for the music XP. It appears to be a little bit easier to get right now. Like
Mm-hmm.
you can kind of just like power level, at least up until like 100 or so, and then it starts to slow down. Um,
There's apparently a rare like song that bonuses like crazy the amount of XP. You need to either find it or buy it or like something of that form. But apparently it bonuses it has an XP bonus if you do it perfectly, like something serious.
so
Yeah.
additionally, like you can gain more XP by having legendary instruments, as well as you can gain more
Yeah.
XP by getting the right perks and stuff like that on them. Um, but the best way by far to level um, your music is to play on expert,
Yes.
which depending on the instrument that you're playing can be very difficult. The instrument in the
I mean,
song, for instance, the
I
mandolin
would
parts on
expect it.
expert are insane.
I'd expect something on expert level should be quite hard.
Yeah.
Obviously, yeah, the mandolin versus like the double bass. I'd imagine the mandolin is probably a lot more complex.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So that's a lot of fun.
the upright bass.
The Ginger Prime held his Eternum Fishing Open for charity. You can rewatch that
Mm-hmm.
stream if that's your thing. In chat, we're gonna
Oh,
link the
oh, nice.
stream.
Yeah,
Totally worth catching up on. Kind of a cool event. Supported charity and raised a decent amount of money.
yeah, it's
That's
pretty
always
chill.
good.
It's a pretty chill thing to watch and pretty chill thing to do. Like, yeah, it's hang out with some with. I mean, it's not live anymore. You can't live like obviously Ginger Prime does live streaming and all that kind of stuff, so you can catch him live. But like it's a chill time. The one thing which was much more confusing was something that I was kind of actually looking forward to, the 5v5 big pylon Maramar PvP tournament, which was postponed to the point where I couldn't actually watch it. So, I had things to do. I need, kind of stuff. But then going back to the to one of the casters streams that was going to be casting the PvP tournament and scrubbing through it, it's like a 10-hour video or 10-hour stream. Sorry, my bad, 10-hour video. It's a 10-hour sort of replay of the stream. Um, I couldn't find it. I literally couldn't find it, Ace. Like I went almost like obviously I didn't watch all 10 hours of it, but like I was skipping through every 3 or 4 minutes, like maybe anything from 2 to 4 minutes at a time, right, to see if I can kind of like get to a point or find a point where where she was clearly watching 5v5s happening and and sort of commentating over it as such to the audience. I never found it. I literally never found it. It was ridiculous. I know that it actually happened because we found I did a search and we did find actual footage of it, which you've linked into chat. Thank you very much for that, by the way. And thank you very much to Reckless Khan, by the way, on YouTube for uploading that, because otherwise we would never have known. The only other thing that we knew that kind of indicated that it did happen was that Big Pylon had the brackets and the results on their website. And so if you don't want to know the results, then close your ears or something like that, or mute it for like 5 seconds. But essentially, ultimately, the team Need a Healer won the day and scooped the 450,000 gold pot for first place. So yeah. I was hoping to hear some good like commentary from the two casters that were going to do it, but like I've yet to find a video with those two like casting and commentating. Like it's perplexing, man. I don't understand it.
You would think that it would be as publicized as possible, but it is.
Oh yeah, like
it is damn near impossible to find, as we have yet to find it.
They were getting official devs to actually sort of to tweet out about it and stuff like that, and no, can't find it.
So I'm going to insert something in here, and I want to talk a little bit about something else that before we start covering some of the like popular threads this week in the forums.
Oh, okay.
And on Reddit, I want to talk about Steam.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, we did talk about Steam
for those that don't know,
pre-show.
In the oh god, wrong button.
What?
Wrong button.
Oh god.
I meant to start Steam, and I started New World.
Oh right, okay. I thought you like pressed stop stream or something like that.
Nope. Just trying to.
It's just gonna pull some resources from the stream, from the CPU and GPU here. Like there we go. The stream might get choppy, but it probably doesn't. It's fine.
So it's all good. New World is of course hosted on Steam. So its reviews, its player count, and all of that is very visible.
Yes.
One thing that has changed in the last couple of weeks is actually that the most recent reviews of the game are now mostly positive. And this is 71% of 1,400 user reviews in the last 30 days have been positive, which is a turn from the all-time review of mixed. So this potentially means good things. It means the game is, of course, in a better state than it's been in. People are. I can say this more than anecdotally. People are coming back. We've seen a ton of forum threads, tons of Reddit threads. Hey, it's now the time to come back. There's been some really good posts on r-MMORPG, which for anybody who's ever not or who hasn't ventured into the depths of Reddit, r-MMORPG is filled with a bunch of people who probably hate gaming altogether.
I was about to say it's like
somehow
it's full of
New
vexed
World post managed to get several hundred upvotes.
What?
Several hundred upvotes basically describing how, hey, the game is in a much better place. Here's all of the stuff that's changed, and kind of reevaluating, is this the time to start considering coming back or trying the game out? Seeing as the game does not cost that much, it's a one-time purchase. I think and the summary of their article, of their long post, was literally, yeah, now's the time to kind of try it if you want. And yeah, so I thought that was worth mentioning. Again, it's one of those things that's out there. It's 1,400 reviews. 71% of people are saying it's good. got to be doing something right to be pulling that. So
Yeah.
um,
Anyway, that's enough copium for the day.
yes, yes,
let's go
because
into
people say
let's
we
go
only
into
talk about
play.
the good stuff. Let's talk about some of
Let's
the
go
less than good
into
stuff.
let's go into sort of like some of the community's sort of pain points. And so, you know, one of the things that we always sort of try to do is we look at the community kind of like feedback over the past week. So you know, there's some community threads, the top community threads on the forums at least. The top one at the moment seems to be, you know, very much sort of hammering on what we talked about last week. So we'll probably gloss over this a little bit because we were fairly heavy on conversation regarding, you know, regarding this topic last week, and clearly it's still something that is that's an issue. It still will be something that'll be an issue because it is a complex thing that the AGS need to sort out, and I'll stress this: they need to sort this out because it's fundamental for player groups to want to stay in New World, and that is the regarding mass reporting, bans, and the moderation system being just terrible.
So I've
And I
had this independently confirmed again. Mass reporting does nothing.
no, yeah, I'm not
Now,
saying
that
mass
said,
reporting by
that
itself does
said,
nothing,
that
but it
said, there
needs,
is a thing
yeah,
that
yeah,
it
yeah,
does do. It does create additional times that the individuals that are reviewing have to go through and check things. Now,
yeah,
bans are dished out by people. There are some automated bans. For instance, if you were banned for um, uh, using like easy anti cheat can ban you for certain things if you were running
yes.
certain programs. I think many people out there would state that if you get picked off by easy anti cheat, then frankly you're probably in the wrong because it's
You
generally
have,
considered pretty bad at what it does. And you've got to be using a pretty specific list of shit to trigger a ban from easy anti cheat.
but essentially, if you thought that you were like, you know, hot shit by going to Google and typing in cheat software and then choosing one of the top 10 results, and then downloading that cheat software and using it, and then getting banned because it got you know, got detected by easy anti-cheat, congratulations, you have negative internet points because like
Yeah.
clearly any anti-cheat system will you know, make sure that the most common cheat software is going to be covered and will ban you if you use it. um
Yes.
but you
Now,
know,
that said, one of the
that
problems that's
said,
occurring is that, of course, these are manually reviewed.
yeah,
The process
and
is
and
done by a third party. It's not a
and
clean process, and the individuals reviewing things oftentimes don't have access to in-game tools.
yeah,
So, frankly, they don't really know anything.
most of it is social engineering. Like
Yeah.
this is players social engineering a system against, you know, against their enemies essentially.
Yes.
We've seen it. Like I mean, I've seen it in so many different titles, and you know, it can get a bit insane in titles such as EVE Online. You know, but it's one of those things where if a system is, you know, not up to scratch and is very like uh, rigid, you know, it's not malleable, it can't kind of adapt to the scenario, the situation in a good fashion, then you know, players will find and you know, player groups will find ways of adapting and using it nefariously, and this is what's happening, right? You know, mass reporting by itself doesn't get somebody banned, but it does push that name, push that kind of like that player into an area where somebody, you know, who may, you know, be coming to like I don't know, like I don't know what their day-to-day life is like, you know, you know, whether you know, something gets pushed to the top of the queue, or whether a large amount of mass reporting does push prioritizations up the queue or not, I have no idea. But we've been assured that like there is no automatic kind of system where mass reporting somebody gets someone banned. It only pushes it only puts that kind of like that person uh into a queue in some way, shape, or form to get a human being to press a button if they are doing something bad or not. And I guess there are some scenarios and situations where the person pushing that button either is, rushed for time in their own life, and then or that they're coming to the end of a shift or whatever, and that they don't review the stuff that they need to review, or that they don't have access to something to get to make an informed decision as to what the hell's going on with this mass report, and just says, well, clearly there's enough player sentiment that this person needs to get banned, so push button. Obviously that's not correct. Obviously, things like this need to be reviewed properly. But the system seems to not be mature enough to allow those moderator teams to be able to review what they need to review. And from a player-facing standpoint, you don't get anywhere near the information that you need to in order to be able to know what's going on when it comes to being, temporarily banned or maybe permanently banned. It's just it's a horrible system, and it needs to be iterated upon.
Yes. Now, that said, I can tell you, going to Reddit and complaining about your ban will lead nowhere because your post will be removed.
Go anywhere.
Mainly because we don't deal with the I was banned for several reasons. One, there is no way to validate what you're saying.
Exactly.
And two, having dealt with a number of people who have had similar issues, I can tell you with certainty many of the people who have received bans deserved bans.
Yeah.
Like, because they come to the subreddit, and I'm a moderator on the subreddit, and the first thing that happens when they get a moderator action against them, like, hey, we remove this post, it violates, X rule, showcase the rule. The first response is normally something that would get you banned. Guaranteed. Like, the number of times that I've been told to eat a dick, or, that I'm, just a Nazi in a basement somewhere, that blah, 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 like, really?
Pretty high fucking basement that you live in.
Yeah, it's quite a fancy, quite the fancy basement that I live in. With all my nice things. Like, what? At some point in time, I should really showcase my setup. I gotta clear my desk off of like paperwork, but
But
if you're in the Discord, you can see what my living room looks like. And you'll notice that I very clearly don't live in the basement. Nope. Anyways, that said, the reality is a lot of these people, they're getting banned for chat related issues. And in the last show, I openly said we shouldn't be banning people for most chat related issues. We should be permanently muting and deafening them.
Yeah. And they should have read only access to chat.
Yeah.
Global
and if they
chat
want to go be a
shittler
on Discord, then great. But they're going to have to find a creative, interpretive dance way of communicating to other players their intentions, or their Discord servers without being able to use the in-game client. Like, that would be my preferred way of dealing with it.
I was thinking like, oh, what kind of dance or what kind of moves and stuff like that would that be? And then I just thought, well, I mean, I guess the classic, the classic teabagging would be the style of choice, right?
Yeah,
probably would be the one.
Yep. So I mean,
well, but that's the thing. We need to have those. We not need to have teabagging, but like we need to have those. The capacity for moderators to be able to mute and deafen people from voice chat in the game, proximity voice chat, and also to set them to read only in the text chats in the game. Like, this needs to be a thing, and it's ridiculous that it's not a thing for moderators and for the moderation team to be able to do.
Yeah,
it needs to happen.
More options, more granularity, and more communication back to the player base. Players need to know what they were banned for. Like, when it comes to, you were banned for X comment, tell them what they said. Show they said it, so email their account and go, you were banned for this. If you don't that,
and if the moderator
appeal it.
And the thing is, if the moderator team doesn't have access to it, make them have access to it. Let them have access to it. And if the access that you only have at the time allows them too much access, or allows them the ability to do something that you don't want moderators to do, guess what? Go to your coders and code a new system, or code some kind of system in that allows them the access to it without being able to screw with something that that you don't want them to screw with. You guys are coders. You guys are developers for a reason. Go and iterate these systems so that they're better.
Yes, code your way around this problem. It is simple to do. I know it's a pain in the ass because it's you're working with an external team. You don't want to give them too much access, but at the same time,
it'll continue
messing this up will dramatically impact player retention.
It'll continually be a thorn in your side unless you deal with it. And if you don't deal with it, it'll slowly go septic and you'll end up having to, lop off a limb.
Yes. Now, the other part of this is that there seems to be a bit of a persecution against musket players when it comes to accusations of aimbotting.
Yeah.
Now, I personally think that there are certain people that are a little too good, having gotten triple tapped headshot, from across the map before, where I can't see their player model, but somehow they can triple headshot me while I'm rolling sideways. Yeah.
There's some suspect kind of moments.
Some of you guys deserve bans. Some of you are really good at the game, and you can tell the difference because good players on the other side will know how to dodge. Now, again, it's not like you can see the bullet before it's coming, but if you get shot once, your first thing is to not stay on the same course.
Yeah.
Like, if you stay on the same course, you're gonna die. Like, it's easy enough to track people if they're moving in the same direction. That said,
you duck, weave, dodge, duck, and
dive, roll, and and all that, and they're still getting ace headshots, despite the fact that you're rapidly changing, doing the zigzag pattern and all that, then yeah, guess what? You're people are gonna question that shit pretty hard. Now,
exactly.
There have been people that have went 40 some kills in Outpost Rush and no deaths because they are just that good. I know of one person who was banned for being just that good, and they had their ban overturned because one, the consistency of information coming out of their appeals was just awful. Like, at first they were told they were banned for something chat related, then they were banned for something cheating, then they were banned for something else, and then it was all, everything was inconsistent. And again, that whole process needs to change. Like, that should never happen. Like, you should not be hey, what did I get banned for? And a different message than what you were told comes up in the email response.
Yeah, it shouldn't be, when you ask what have I been banned for, it shouldn't be it shouldn't be an 8-ball answer, right?
Yeah.
You shouldn't be like shaking an 8-ball and seeing what comes up. Like,
also, the fact that occasionally people are still receiving emails that say "Have fun in Lost Ark" on New World tickets is fucking embarrassing. Fix your shit. Like that is like, one, they shouldn't be bouncing back and forth between the two. Like, have somebody come in that deals with specifically New World shit, or they're emailing uh, from a New World specific account, or from a Lost Ark specific account, so that you don't get those things mixed up. And they should only have parts of the email in that aren't already scripted. You know,
Yeah.
you should be replying off of a template. You know, uh, you know, you were banned for insert automatic reason from the game, not from somebody's interpretation of what happened. You were banned for X. You know, you were banned
Yeah.
for chat related issues. Here is the player text that got you banned. You know, this was the final straw among other things that were considered in your report. And then end with template that states, we appreciate your interest or continued interest in New World, and we will review your ban. Boom, done. Next email. Your ban was well deserved. Get fucked. See you next time. Like, you know.
I was just thinking, I was going to say, like, this is, you're hearing from somebody who understands like how to develop like automatic systems and what automatic systems kind of look like when they kind of like build the components into an email or into a response kind of thing. Yeah, and then there's the whole like your ban was warranted. Get fucked. It was like,
So
don't require
if you
any
ever get
concatenation for
banned
that
off
one.
the
From that one,
subreddit,
it's just dumb. There we
if
go.
you ever get banned off the subreddit and you appeal the ban, and there are people that successfully appeal the ban, like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, they come back and go, okay, hey, listen, I overreacted. I shouldn't have. My bad. I won't do it again. Like, great. They took ownership for it, all
Okay,
that.
cool.
Then there are the
Cool. Yeah.
people that,
You're being
you know,
reasonable.
I deserve an apology. This is bullshit. Blah, blah, blah. My response to you 100% of the time is that I am sorry that you feel you deserve an apology. Done. Muted for 28 days. Like,
Yeah.
that is the response
Yeah.
you would get from me if you don't take ownership of your actions 100% of
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
Because I could care less. I get enough of them all day. Like, you know, do not care. And it's because I run the subreddit. I don't care. Like, you know, now on occasion I have wrongly banned people, and you will see in a response that I have fuck all idea why you got banned. Like, you might have gotten banned in the crossfire of somebody else. Like, occasionally, one of the apps I use is RAF is fun for the Android. And occasionally it will ban the OP of the thread instead of the comment poster. This has happened more than
Yeah,
once.
that's awkward. That
You
is an
know,
awkward bug to
yeah,
the
and you'll get a
yeah.
thing going, hey, why was I banned?
It's like it's like using the in-game moderation kind of buttons in stream chat in Twitch, and like you're about to ban somebody or time out somebody, and then the stream jumps by like one like one line, and then you hit it like just as you're about to hit it, and then just like, oh, you banned somebody or timed somebody like the wrong person out. Like,
yeah,
that's why you
like,
that's one
oops.
of the reasons why you shouldn't use the inline moderation buttons in
Yeah.
stream chat if you're ever a moderator in stream.
So like those
By the
things
way,
happen, and I have seen Amazon Games unban people for their mistakes, and they take credit for their mistakes, which I think is a good thing. That said, I
yeah,
think they need to do some process improvements to stop making mistakes. You know,
just a tiny little bit.
like, as a
But
process improvement person myself, like, when you build automated systems, your whole process, your whole thing becomes, how do I build this in a way that it will unfuck itself anytime a problem comes up? You know,
yeah,
because the data
yeah,
might change, or it might have a new variable, or it might have, you know, something that causes issues. And your first iteration of an automated product is going to be, you know, it probably will break multiple times a week. You know, your
yes,
second iteration will break once a week. Your third iteration will break once a month. Your fourth, fifth, and sixth will extend that along until you get to the point where you no longer have to touch it anymore. That
Where
said,
something foundational has
they
to
clearly
change,
haven't
and
made
then
that first, those few iterations yet.
yeah,
You know,
as you know, because we mentioned this last week, right? We mentioned it about like the if the moderation system, right, was as sort of developed as New World has been since launch, we wouldn't be having these issues. It would be completely fine. It should be. It would be. It'd be in a much better state. But like it hasn't changed. It hasn't, as far as we can tell from outside, kind of looking in, and from the anecdotal evidence that we've seen, like the system that was being used, or the system as it was when the game was launched, is exactly the same system that we still have now, when it comes to moderation, the moderation steps, and the system in general, right? If it had as much iteration and as much development as New World, the game, then it would be in a much better state. But
exactly.
the thing that concerns me about this is when you have players able to leverage things like mass reports, even if it isn't an automatic process, but it is a situation where you can force a scenario where it lands on somebody who isn't looking at it, or isn't sort of processing their reports correctly. Then you create a scenario where player groups can intentionally like destroy the sort of like the leadership of other groups in the game. And those groups, like, we're not talking about like, one or two people leaving the game because they get mass reported and banned. Like, what we're talking about is like the functional leaders of groups getting mass reported and banned, and then those groups basically scattering to the wind. And we're talking not about like 10 people, we're talking about thousands of people. So when you're looking at like the graph where the player attention, or the sort of concurrent player attention sort of drops, like inside of that, that graph could have been a lot less steep if this situation with mass reporting wasn't an issue, because because player groups would still have the faith in like keeping to this game without thinking, oh, next time we come up against a group, I'm not going to get like mass reported and banned, and like all of our kind of all of the time and effort and energy that I put into coordinating stuff and into managing all of these players and all of these people and all these personalities isn't for nothing. And this is the thing, managing people, managing a lot of people, and I know this because like and Ace knows this because we come from a game where managing lots of people is almost an art form in itself. Managing people is takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of process in order to do, and it takes a lot of care and attention as well. And if all of that is all of that comes to a head in terms of you getting temporarily or permanently banned, um, what's the point? What's the point in keeping your group there when you're just going to get trolled by players, like by other player groups? You might as well go play something that actually like respects your time, respects your energy, respects the investment that you put into managing all of those people in the game. Like, and this is one of the reasons why I'm stressing this so much, is because it makes a significant difference to the amount of people who will want to come back and play the game. Because yeah, you're going to get the individuals that kind of go, oh, and the small sort of like ones or twos or threes or fours of like friends that kind of go, oh, has New World changed? Oh, has it gotten better? Oh, okay, I'll see if I can come and have a look at it. But you're not getting those, you know, hundreds of people, those thousands of of players in player groups that are like, oh, have they fixed the issue where I used to get mass reported and then all of my efforts were in vain? No, they haven't. Okay, well, I'll carry on playing something else. Fix that, and then you'll get a lot more players coming into the game because, once you get the word out that like the whole moderation system has been has actually been fixed, then players will have more like will trust you more, will trust the game, will trust the moderation system for not basically bending to the will of people trying to troll them. But I think we've labored on that far enough. I don't know whether you've opened the and the I quit thread yet, Ace.
I have not yet.
You have not yet. It's worth a look. It's worth a look. Because although it is a negative kind of thread, obviously, it's extensive, and he gives good reasons as to why he's aggravated by it. So this was one of the other sort of like top threads in the forum that for this week. Essentially, a list of things that has irked this player to the point where he has decided to essentially not play New World anymore. One of the top ones is the mutation limits, and it's an interesting one because it showcases not somebody who wants to max out their mutations per week in terms of getting the maximum amount of like M10s out of his mutation, out of his the potential amount of mutations that he can run, but a lot of different things that happen regarding like helping people, like sort of teaching and tutoring people through different mutation levels and that kind of stuff. There's essentially there's a lot of scenarios that the mutation limit essentially negatively affects that the old system didn't used to negatively affect, because you could just make more or sort of like you could get more mutation orbs or like expedition orbs in order to actually run more expeditions. Yeah.
See, I'm still of the opinion that 25 expeditions is a lot.
Yeah. So
I think the limit could go higher, but again, I think that 25 expeditions is quite 25 mutated expeditions is quite a lot.
Yeah. So I'll read a little bit of this verbatim. So this is a guy called The Real Des on the forums. If I decide to go and help new folks with mutations, I screw myself out of gear and shards. If I decide to say screw the new people and focus on my progress, what have I done since that? I feel like an asshole because oftentimes they can't find a tank or a specific sort of person for their for their crew for the lower level mutations. This system is not good for anyone. It creates an unneeded friction and divides communities.
But so a lot of this is also going to be tied to regional queues and the expedition group finder.
Yeah,
like both of those things will fix that problem.
Yeah, and he says like, what I think you fail to understand, and what he's directing obviously to AGS. What I think you fail to understand is that those 5% of players that run more than 20 mutations are typically the same ones that are teaching new players the dungeons and running them through lower mutations. And in doing so, in restricting the amount of mutations that you can run per week, you basically hamstrung multiple communities with the change. I can see where he's coming from. I also can see that there are people who are maxing out their mutation M10s to get the most amount of
because
shards and
they're
all that kind
selling
of
the
stuff,
shards at the end.
because they're selling the shards. But like, so obviously there's two, like, this is the thing. This is the classic example of, like, throwing the baby out with the bathwater, right? Like, you want to get rid of those people who are abusing the system, but you don't want to do it in a way that essentially screws over people and forces people to either hate playing or cause friction in communities. And so sometimes the more complex uh, uh, like the more complex route is the way to go. But yeah, he does move on, like talking about crafting, how he feels like the crafting is not exactly in a great spot. The perk rebalance that was supposed to make a lot of things useful seems to have fallen very short of the mark. The rebalancing of the perk buckets chance to roll was all right, in actual fact. In some ways, neutral in other ways, and worse in some ways too. And that there are only really 3 sought after perks for armor. Still, so that kind of the idea that the perk rebalance would shake it up to the point where a lot of things will be a lot more viable, potentially, but obviously, from the real Dez's perspective, they've missed the mark on that. Whether AGS have missed the mark by a lot, or whether they've missed the mark only by a little, I'm not entirely certain. But like, the thing is with balance, especially when it comes to PvP, is AGS could miss the mark by only a tiny amount, and that still would be the case that missing the mark is missing the mark. And balance is an extremely fine thing to try and do, and it's something that requires a significant amount of knowledge and a significant amount of dedication. And it's one of those things that, like, regardless of what you try and do, somebody's going to be angry, and somebody's going to feel like they've been vexed in some way, shape, or form. So, or sort of targeted in some way, shape, or form. So, but the nice thing with the post, by the way, from the Real Des, is that he also offers some proposed solutions, which is it's one of those things where, although the title of the thread is a bit sort of caustic and a bit sort of attention seeking, to some degree, a little bit, the actual content of it is pretty good, because it's not just like a game's terrible, blah blah blah, bye. It's actually, here's the issues that I have, here's the reasons why I feel how I feel, and here's some solutions that I feel would help.
Mm-hmm.
Which is how you want to do. Is how you want. That's how you want to sort of showcase, and how you want to sort of, like, put down feedback for the game, right? You have issues with areas of the game. State where you have those issues, and try and explain to the best way that you can why you feel why those issues are issues in your perspective, and then try and offer some solutions. There was an interesting one, actually, where he talked about cash shop, and I thought that was kind of interesting. He says, so it blows my mind how a game run by Amazon can have such an ignorantly poor in-game shop. You locked white dye behind a paywall. Okay, fair enough. I've got to make money somewhere. You got to make money somewhere, and everyone's going to want it. But you have to wait. And this is one of those things that I see is, like, a thing that happens in other cash shops, right? Where they do sort of like they try and they're trying to sort of work on the fear of missing out of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where they go
limited
like,
time offerings.
limited time
is certain
offerings, all
things
that kind of
shouldn't
stuff.
be limited time.
Yeah, and that's the thing where he says like, but you've got to wait a damn month for it to come back. And there's no real reason or excuse for this ignorance. Like, there's and he's saying, like, that AGS have literally lost money from him personally because of this whole, manufactured scarcity and FOMO kind of bullshit. He says, I can't even count how many times I went to dye something that I wanted white and was refused the ability to purchase it. And saying, like, let's not forget that we still don't have the single most used dye color in any game ever in history. Where is the black dye? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to ask yourself, like, that in some way, AGS are shooting themselves in the foot with the cash shop, with the whole manufactured scarcity, with the whole, having to wait a month for it to come back around. And it's yeah. So there's some good reasonings. There's some very very valid points in this in this thread. And he does state overall New World has come a long way since release. So it's not all doom and gloom. He does state that, like, he does see that the game has improved, but there's still things that are don't seem to seem logical, or seem to have just been a case of, well, this seems to be the industry norm as to how you run a cash shop, so this is what we're going to do. Well, industry norm doesn't specifically, industry norms change. What was the industry norm 5 years ago is not the industry norm now. If you ran and you can't say that, like, you can't look there and kind of go like, well, this is the industry norm now, so it's going to be the industry norm for the next 2 decades. Like, no, industry norms change.
Mm-hmm.
The us as consumers, us as customers, we may react to certain new things in the ways that that publishers hope that we do. But eventually we realize that, like, we may be getting swindled, we may be sort of having the wool pulled over our eyes. But when we do realize this, we change our ways, we change how we do things, we change our reaction to certain things. And this FOMO crap, is something that for the most part, we're starting to actually, realize and see when it occurs. And it's not something that helps like sales. If anything, as as you're seeing and as you're hearing from anecdotal evidence, it's hindering it.
I think it depends on what you're using it for. So, for instance, like, let's use Star Citizen for example. Like, the FOMO
Mm.
sales in Star Citizen of, like, hey, here's this new concept sale, get it now before it goes up in price when we actually launch it. You know, that's very much a thing of, like, okay, I want this. I like the design of this new ship. I like the direction. I want this thing. But
Okay.
at the same time, the entry level new player ships are always for sale. Like, you're
Yeah.
like, there are certain things that you have to always have for sale. Just, they're always on the market. Do not take them off the market because they're just core. Like, they're your core things that, like, when it comes to dyes, common
Yeah.
colors, like, shit, you could go crazy with dyes. Like,
Oh yeah,
if
dude.
anybody
Like,
has seen Warframe, you can sell color palettes.
you can sell color palettes. Who's to say that the color? Who's to say that, like, the colors should be static colors? Who's to not say that the colors shouldn't sort of, like, be like, animated colorings? When the funny thing is, talking about how companies can make money, the idea of sponsorship of actual real world companies, was always a thing that I remember would be really cool in certain games, especially sort of games that were like, the sort of like the survival kind of, like, end of days style kind of games. but you know, Fortnite, had a crazy kind of cool skin when they were sort of promoting the Samsung Galaxy kind of like the new Samsung Galaxy range of mobile phones, yeah, right. And the really cool thing was they had a custom skin in it that literally had like a kind of like crazy sort of galaxy kind of like cool kind of like space galaxy sort of thing that changed whenever you moved your character, whenever you moved the your viewpoint on your character as well. And it was really fucking cool. And it was really interesting. And it kind of sold that whole galaxy kind of side of things to players. So, although it is a bit ridiculous, as it would be a bit out of place from in New World, like to some degree it is, to some degree it isn't. Like we've got magic, we've got like we have magical abilities, we have magical kind of aspects to the game. Certain things, don't need to be so super simple, and you can kind of be a bit creative about it.
And I mean, the other side of this is that being able to dye like skins.
Yeah.
Like it's great that I have a full set of each skin, because you can't really mix and match many of them. Like being able to just
no, that
change
is
the
true.
color, change
If
the
you could
base
change it a
color on
little bit.
anything would be great.
Yeah. Definitely.
So like
It's
that
super
would be
difficult
another
to
big
mix and
thing.
match.
Like the other side of that would be like a transmog system, so that I can get a gear set that isn't skins to be like similar types of equipment that actually look coherent. Like there's a reason that games like Diablo do that, and enable you to really um, to really pick up on those things. Like it is really important to be able to customize your character and make them look good, not just have good gear.
Yeah.
It's
And I
like the
said
guy.
this.
It's like the guy who's in like full like Warhammer armor, but has the Hello Kitty shield.
Yeah.
Like it looks completely out of place, but it's got too good a stats to pass up.
But hell, if you could change the primary and secondary kind of color of that Hello Kitty
Yeah.
like shield into something that fits with the armor, like you could turn that into like a Hello Kitty from a Hello Kitty to a Hell Kitty.
Mhm.
Like, and it would probably work. You never know.
Yeah.
But the other kind of thing, and like I've mentioned this before when talking about like cosmetics and stuff like that, is like there is scope and there is room for cosmetics to not be you purchase it and it is always there and it is always perfect and it is always 100% on your character. Like there should be reason enough for a micro transaction, not a macro transaction, a micro transaction sort of cosmetic item to be, um, like a multi-use thing that you can use a certain amount of times, and that it slowly kind of fades or degrades in some way, shape, or form over time. But the point to stress on that is that I kind of feel that should be what dyes are like, because dyes should fade after a while and you should have to reapply it in order for it to for the colors to pop, or for the for the dark colors to be solidly super dark, or the whites to be super white. But when you're selling something that is somewhat temporary and limited, it should be a micro transaction, and I really stress the term micro on that one. But what it does is it creates a scenario where nobody can purchase everything forever and be done with your transaction shop. It creates a scenario where your microtransactions roll over and continue to go without you even having to potentially even add stuff to it, which is something that I think a lot of companies, a lot of a lot of microtransaction shops and stuff like that just seem to not even think about. I don't know why. I literally don't know why. I think the thing is the maybe the few that have tried it decided to, really, really take the mick and put the price up for those sorts of things at a ridiculous level, and people thought that it was, people rightly looked at it and was like, hell no.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a cost to utility sweet spot for those kind of items, that if you do that correctly, your cash shop will continually be making you cash without really that much like continual interjection of new stuff, because people will be using those limited items, those limited run items, to make their stuff look good, and they'll run out of them, and then they'll purchase some more because they can purchase some more because they don't cost anywhere, like they barely cost anything, but they'll be purchasing, more and more people will be doing that more often. And this is the reason why they're called microtransactions, is because when you get a large amount of people doing, making all of these small transactions, often enough, they turn into a lot of money. I shall remove myself from the soapbox now.
So let's dive into another thing here.
Yes.
Gear management. And this kind of like nicely kind of dovetails into this.
Oh yeah, no, it does actually.
Where like one, being able to like have the gear that looks the right way, but being able to put on the right gear consistently with the set that you actually want to put on is kind of important. So like,
yes.
Oh, I want to have my intelligence set on. Where is
and
it?
we talked to we
like,
the funny thing is, we mentioned that this was going to be a problem like months ago.
I mean, it's been an ongoing issue, and like I think it's on their radar for something to do, but like so are many other big ticket items. And I think when people see the Brimstone Sands expansion, they'll understand just how much has been on their plate.
Yeah, probably.
Like full stop. That like I think people are going to see that and they're going to go, "Oh shit!" Like I get this. Like I get why all of the concerns can't be addressed at one time. Like there's some other stuff in the works.
Yeah.
But like looking at the rest of things out there, like this is one of those things that like just the proper gear management, being able to sit there and say, okay, I want to consistently put on the same set, or be able to identify sets of gear in a an additional system or something, or like have presets, like that would be wonderful to be able to have presets, like go through and have 5 presets on your character that you load in gear and they do X thing, like you with the little the outfit number 1 is my intelligence set, outfit number 2 is my bruiser set, my tank set, my crafting set, except have it be unlimited number of outfits for all I care. Like, because I don't care how much gear you have on you. Like, I don't think that the developers care how much gear you have on you, but like the ability to switch up, and like
so
change up your attributes and respec to be something else on the spot or relatively quickly, I think is just kind of assumed to be a thing at this point. Like,
I think it's assumed to be a thing. I think it's definitely assumed that it's a thing, that it probably should be a thing, especially when it comes to sort of higher level gameplay. But like a lot of players have showcased decent and interesting and sort of like novel ways of kind of being able to do this. Like I think one of the best examples of this was I
the mannequins in the houses.
Yeah, the mannequins in the houses. Like, you can put X number of mannequins in a house, and like each one of those mannequins, you can essentially, have a gear set on that mannequin, And then as far as I'm concerned, like you could literally just walk up to that mannequin and just swap the gear that you have on with the gear that that's on it, and just whoosh, straight away, and there
Just
you are.
have that be put it in your houses and just have
You
it
know,
show up on your inventory sheet as
because then it's cool.
outfit
Because
mannequin 1 Windsword, mannequin
yeah,
2, so you can at least kind of see what they are and be able to rename them, so you can
yeah,
say, hey, this is my
be able
intelligence
to
set.
edit them. Yeah, be able to edit them, be able to rename them.
Yeah.
But the other awesome thing about that way of doing things is you also end up with a really kind of cool way of being able to showcase, your gear when you're not using it on a mannequin. Like it ends up being a sort of an interesting piece in your, for you to have. Firstly, an interesting piece to have in your house, but also another reason to have a house as well, amongst all of the other reasons to have a house. But
Or to
like,
have
it's another
several
way.
houses. If
Or
you
to have several
if you have
houses.
all 3 houses, you could have 15 sets of gear, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever number they choose. Like, that would be cool. That
Be
would be a
lovely.
good
Yeah, it'd be
addition
awesome.
to, like, incentivizing house ownership.
Yeah.
You know, I think that would be pretty solid.
Yeah, it'd
Um,
be fantastic.
so like adding some level of gear management into New World would go a long ways. Even being able
Yeah.
to just like tag it, like lock it and tag it with a number or a letter,
Yeah.
would be great. Like, this is set A, this is set B, so that you can at least turn around and be like, okay, I'm wearing the right fucking set. Because the number of times that I've
Yeah.
set out, because like if you use skins, you can't see what armor you're wearing.
No.
So like, like I could be wearing my fishing set, no PR, and be like, man, I'm not doing so hot this time. Like,
God, people are really hitting me really hard. Like, what the hell's
yeah,
going on with this? And then you're like, oh, hang on a second.
yeah. Then you get to the end of the match, and you're like, oh, I'm just a moron. That's fair. You know,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm not saying, yeah, you're a moron. I'm just saying, yeah, I understand that scenario because I've definitely experienced it before.
Yes.
Like, oh shit, I still have my harvesting gear on. Like, yeah, that'd probably be the reason why, people are hitting me super hard. I should have actually cottoned onto that like a little sooner than that. But yeah, I think everybody experiences it at least once. I mean, but this also moves us on to probably the last kind of thing that we're going to probably end up talking about in terms of New World, which is armor. And like, so yeah, you want to know about, like, what would be the best perks and stuff like that to have on armor. Well, there's a guy on YouTube called Fusion Thunder who has recently done very recently, in actual fact, done a video all about that, and so you should definitely check that out. It's up to date.
Yep. Just linked it in chat there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So with that, that's what we've got for New World for today. Obviously, quite a bit. There's a ton in the works, ton that's currently happening. And yeah, like, I'm excited.
Yeah.
I've been playing New World probably more in the last month and a half here than I have for a few months before that. Obviously, like, I was playing a lot of Lost Ark, which is our next topic.
Mm-hmm.
Because we have the drops running, I'm not going to leave the. I want to double check that before I.
Well, I think the drops are running, but like, I know I've gotten anything and everything that I can with the drops, because like, yeah.
Yeah. I just want to make sure that they are actually, like,
Functional.
yeah. Yes, they are. They are
Yeah.
currently running. It's the Scoundrel Fancy Apparel skin. So they are currently running. I'm going to stay in the New World category. I understand that there are probably going to be some people who are like
Confused.
lower viewer count in the section because we're at the top, that are going to get real confused at why we're talking about other games in the New World category. But
you're gonna hate me, but like for mentioning this, but there's also a 4 hour like drop for Lost Ark at the moment as well. But we have to be a
Seeing as we
participating
got
live channel.
710 people in here that have been here for the New World coverage, we're not going to pick up that many people when we start talking about Lost Ark.
That's fair.
You know,
that is fair.
Is what it is.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Makes sense.
So
anyway, let's
hit it with the Lost Ark stuff here. So Lost Ark Under the Occasion Sun update is going to be coming out here. This includes the Pet Ranch update, which has both the Ranch and Cookie Workshop addition to player strongholds. Basically, it gives you the option to train your pets to become legendary pets and give off much more significant buffs. These new buffs, you can train them. Basically, you can train your old pets to become legendaries and gain one of 5 new abilities. And these are everything from resetting cooldowns by 20%, resetting chances of recovering 8% of your health when it triggers the ability, like attack speed buffs, move speed buffs, recovery buffs, specialty meter buffs, like all kinds of really cool stuff. Simply put, it's going to be really good to do. It's something that is frankly like kind of needed because there's a lot of really useless pets in Lost Ark that, like, unless you have a legendary pet, you don't really understand the value of having a legendary pet until you already have one.
Yeah.
Because again, it's not like something that you can be like, oh, what does this actually do? It's something you kind of gotta see it to believe it. Additionally,
some of these perks seem to be pretty damn powerful, from what I'm reading, at least.
Yes, they are significantly powerful, and they are vastly more powerful than those of the standard rarity pets. So, like, it is very important. This is the same reason that people use legendary mounts. They have much longer runs. They have much, their speed is much higher. For people that don't understand this, you need to try more mounts. Like I go around on the turtle mount. I understand that it is not the optimal mount because I refuse to pay 9,000 gold for the fucking gold cloud.
Yeah,
Fuck you people for increasing the price on that for so much.
If you think the Velociraptor mount is the coolest mount, like, I mean, yeah, it may look badass, but like, yeah, there's better mounts out there for you.
Yes, occasionally there's mounts out there for sale that you can get that are very good mounts. That said, for gold, you can get some really good mounts, or for pretty minimal effort, you can go get one of the turtle mounts, which I believe to be one of the better mounts in the game. And they're rather easy to get if you know what you're doing. So yeah, like I highly recommend those. Additionally, past this, power passes have finally been re-enabled. This has been like a long-standing, like basically the last month they've been disabled, and this is all to do with the complete bullshit that is chargebacks. Anytime you rein in RMT or the ability of bots, they will find another way. And oftentimes bot farms have very little to do with very little, or have, well, not very little to do with, have everything to do with illegal activity, and have no quorums using false credit cards or illegally obtained credit card information. They'll use the information, then they'll charge back, so it doesn't cost them anything, it doesn't cost anybody anything. So nobody notices their credit card's missing. But
or that a clone of their credit card has been made.
Yes. So that's always a questionable thing to have happen. Um, it's painful to watch. It's very painful to watch. Um, Having had my credit card information stolen before, I can tell you, um, you know, uh, it's a
No,
pain.
nice.
Like the hard part is actually just like getting your credit card information set up on all of the right websites. But now that a lot of websites have moved to using like PayPal, or some other third party service, because they don't want your credit card information.
They don't want to be they
Yeah,
don't want they don't want to be the target.
yeah,
They want to shift that sort of like that that potential possible like being targeted by people to institutions that have the resources and have the connections and stuff that can actually weather
and
those storms, that can
this
actually
is
deal with
why
that.
like the rise of PayPal. For those that don't know, another Elon Musk company, PayPal. Uh, you know, uh, the ability. So let's talk about how online transactions work a little bit here. If I go online to a pizza restaurant, and I want to order, Bugsy's Pizza here in Old Town, phenomenal place to eat, like wonderful pizza. It's a little bit on the expensive side, but like if you ever try it, you'll understand it's worth the extra. That said, this isn't a free ad for Bugsy's. That said, if you're ever in Old Town and you're looking for pizza, go to Bugsy's anyways. They don't owe me anything for this free ad spot. Anyways, I digress. If I go to their
It's
website,
literally just goodwill. Yeah, yeah.
most of these older websites will have credit card information that you have to put in. And they'll even outsource it to another company, going, you charge through them. We don't want your credit card information. We're going to send you to this third party. You're going to give them your information, and they'll give us the money
Yeah.
because they don't
Mhm.
want your credit card information on their website.
That's kind of one of the reasons why things like Apple Pay, things like, Google Pay and that kind of stuff have become, more popular. Is because it's not only popular in terms of the sort of convenience of use for the customer, but it's also extremely, extremely popular with the small to mid-size like companies, because they don't have to hold on to people's information and become essentially targets for
And
uh,
this is
nefarious
this
people.
is where like tying things to PayPal as a renewable, reoccurring thing, you can do that. Like one of the best reasons, as said in chat here, is not having to go find your goddamn wallet every time you need to go get something. Like,
Yeah, exactly,
or like
exactly.
even if Google saves your credit card information, and it's like, oh, what's your security code? It's 3 digits, and I can't fucking remember it anytime I need it. Like, and it's like,
Yeah,
okay,
no,
hey,
that's true.
instead, I've got two-factor authentication. My phone is never outside of 5 feet from me.
Yeah,
I can't name a time in the last several years, unless I was in a room that literally didn't allow me to have a phone on me, that it was further away from that. And
yeah.
even then, like it, and
And
there,
even then, even then in that scenario, you're probably not ordering pizza.
yeah, I'm not using my credit card in there anyways.
Yeah.
So like, it's that kind of thing where it's like you want that added security to know that, hey, when I push in Steam, pay for this on PayPal, it doesn't automatically just click, click, boom, done. Like, it's not tied that
And it
close.
doesn't
It
just.
asks me for confirmation. It asks me, what's your PIN? Like, what's your, you need to authenticate. You know, like you were not getting away from this. You need to
and
authenticate.
and and I was talking about two-factor authentication, like earlier today as well. And the thing is, a lot of people there's a lot of people who think that like two-factor authentication is just, two-factor authentication is two-factor authentication. If I have two-factor authentication in whatever form it is, I'm fine. Well, that's not really the case these days, especially if your two-factor authentication is a you know an email sent to your sent to your email. That is probably the worst
That is
form
the
of two-factor
least
authentication.
safe. Yeah.
It might as well not be an authenticator, because like chances are, if you are going to get like if you are going to get like information stolen from you or something like that, chances are what will happen is your email will get breached first. And if that's the case, they basically have your two-factor authentication right there and then. Like, they don't even need to do anything. Like, your
Especially
2FA
if you
is going
don't
to
change
send.
your passwords often.
Yeah.
The number of times that my email and credentials have been hacked off of websites is comical. Absolutely comical.
Yeah.
Like, to the point where it's like, why is this, why am I trusting these people with this information? I've actually been looking into this recently about email addresses, for like added security and added general like online safety. Because I like with being a Twitch streamer, there are certain things that you just have to do, and you have to understand that there is an additional level of safety involved in just being online and being safe. Like for instance, swatting is a thing. If you are a streamer and we're currently streaming to 706 people, there are a number of people out there who do not like me just
Well, I mean,
because we stream and we make money doing it.
Well, I mean,
not much money, but like we make money doing it.
Let's not like let's not go into your the amount of people angry, or the amount of people that you piss off when it comes to subreddit moderation, right?
Yeah. Like there's a number of people that just don't like me. That said, like there are things that you have to do to make yourself safe online nowadays. As a Twitch streamer, you need to reach out to your local police department proactively, not after the fact, and you need to tell them, hey, can you put something on my account that says, hey, I'm a Twitch streamer, I'm like I work for X, like you can come and validate that nothing shady is going on here if you want. Like, I've had a police officer in my home having that discussion. Hey, I do a lot of stuff online. My name's out there. My address is potentially out there. I want to make sure that I'm safe and that there's no issue, or that there's no potential of an issue there.
Exactly.
There is zero risk. There is zero risk of the local police department coming in through my door. Like, and if they did, they're gonna knock quietly because they know what's going on. Like literally, there's things tagged to my address for that purpose.
Yeah, and they're forewarned, and that's the way that that's the way you should do, and that's the way that we come we're like as a sort of society, and also as a sort of it's a generation thing as well. Like, we come to realize that like there are certain things that we need to do to remain safe, and identity theft, potential swatting incidents, all that kind of stuff. Like, it's now an aspect of our daily lives.
Now, some of the other things that you can actually do out there is that you can create, using Gmail, you can actually create a task-specific email address. So, for instance, if I want to sign up for Amazon Prime, I can go and create a Gmail account, that is x@gmail.com, as my main one. That's obviously not my account name, but I'm not going to tell you my email because,
understandably,
but I can then create an account that is x+news@gmail.com and use that to sign up for news-related items. and then I can use, I can use variations on that to sign up for any and every type of website that I want without ever giving away my original email address. And on top of that, if you think you have cracked which account actually I have, you haven't, because again, it's a shell game, and I can move and forward those emails from all of those to different email addresses with very little extra effort. So it's actually kind of funny. Like this is the kind of stuff that I've started to look into, and it's the same with credit card information, and it's becoming more and more important online to protect that. But you can actually go, and certain websites like Apple Pay, I think, automatically does this now, where it will give you a credit card number specific for what you're doing. So when you say, I want to sign up for Netflix, and it's going to cost X amount per month, it creates a credit card that is specifically tied to you that only is allowed to charge that amount of money to Netflix every month. And that is the only time that number is used ever.
Yeah, like virtual credit cards, like and the whole kind of like virtual credit card kind of thing, services and stuff. Because there's more than just Apple that kind of do it. There's third party kind of services that you can sign up for to do it and that kind of stuff. But those are really like in terms of like interesting sort of like net 2.0 kind of like businesses and stuff, especially sort of like finance kind of solutions. Like
the
those are probably one of the best ones that I've ever seen.
Your credit card number, your email address
is gone,
and even your phone number are gone.
Yeah.
It is, you should never have one email account. Like, I'm not going to go into why, because like that should be obvious. You should have 5 to 10 different email accounts.
You know what it kind of also reminds me of, is it reminds me of like you should never have just one computer of some form.
Mm-hmm.
Like you should always have another computer just in case, like, because there's always that situation where you could potentially, the computer that you have could potentially like you could get a virus, or like some kind of exception happens that on something installed that like basically screws up your computer, and you're just basically getting blue screened every single time with an error code. And like, I don't know about you, but like I probably am not going to get the error code, or like remember the error code as fast as it appears and then disappears when the computer basically does its restarting kind of loop. Having a computer that isn't screwed to look up that error code and figure out what the hell it is.
I can remember, like, you remember last year when my motherboard failed. So my motherboard failed my computer, and I was like, oh fuck, like what am I gonna do? And I had people in the Discord, with my phone on a stand over the shell of my computer on my on the island in my kitchen, and literally was talking to people on Discord on my backup laptop that's like 10 fucking years old now. That is actually, I probably need to pull it out and dust it off and have it run updates again. But having that backup so that I can have conversations, I can look things up, have the full web internet available, that I can see what problems are out there, see how to fix them, and all that is really actually quite important.
And so you should take that kind of lesson and apply it to other areas of your your internet life, your e-life, your modern lifestyle.
Additionally, when you have public facing email addresses, when you have a public facing email address, for instance, something that you've used on LinkedIn, something that you've used on any kind of business resume or anything like that that's been out there for years, don't use that for critical business. Like
Yeah.
if you have an email like that, assume that it's going to be a spam box. Like, because that's what it's going to be. That said, like, if you're a responsible adult, you should be going through your spam box folder, you know, and you don't have to, like, it's pretty fucking obvious what scams are and what aren't. Like, and don't necessarily open the email. You don't need to
No.
open the email to know what's inside it. You look at the email and you go, is there actually it's saying, oh, there's a charge from PayPal. Go to PayPal, log in,
Yeah.
and check.
Yeah, that's always the
Don't
safest way.
trust an email in your inbox. Like, it doesn't matter if it looks like it's from the right person or if it looks like it's from Amazon. It could be from somebody else. And if you click on anything in there, you're fucked.
There's ways of spoofing, like the address or the the sending address, to look completely legitimate. Like, so yeah.
From there, it's kind of it's an interesting topic, but like internet safety is actually really important when it comes to like paying for stuff online, and understanding like what you're doing is really important. Like, take some time, take internet safety seriously. It will help you in the future.
Oh yeah.
So with that, let's move on to Star Citizen.
Yes.
This has come back, and we're going to talk a little bit about the sneak peek. There is an energy-based gun that they used as their sneak peek for this week, and this has later actually been confirmed to be the Volt Pulse weapon, the verified off-world laser technologies pulse energy pistol, which is a very cool acronym in my opinion. And I hope to see more Volt weapons because it actually looks pretty fucking sweet. And I highly recommend people checking out that. We're going to roll right into the roadmap roundup because that's where we kind of landed there. They've also confirmed on the roadmap, and this is recently edited as well. I saw this come through. This is not for 3.18. It would be for 3.19, is the Arena Commander Classic Race Mode overhaul. This is a long time coming and has not been updated in many years, but is something that most people are familiar with, especially if you are one of the OG backers like myself, where it was one of the only things in the game that you could do other than walk around your hangar with your ship prior to being able to fly your ship in anything other than the race mode by yourself. So kind of a cool thing to add. There will be more on that, of course, as it gets closer to release. I'm sure they'll have like a Star Citizen live on it or something. They've also made, obviously the Volt pistol made its debut on the tracker. It will be in for 3.18. So that's another nice one. AI vehicle perception, giving AI the ability to both perceive and detect vehicles from the ground, as well as select ground-based targets when piloting their own vehicles, using both vision and radar. So that's another, obviously necessary thing for NPCs to be able to identify that there's something to shoot at and be able to shoot at it. This may come into play with NPC on NPC type stuff, where the NPCs are all of a sudden attacking themselves, which could be kind of comical.
I mean, if it's any better than the AI that they currently have for what is it, the bunker missions, I'm sure it can only get better than that, because like I've literally seen, hostile and friendly AI like standing right next to each other for extended periods of time, not shooting at each other, and then suddenly deciding that they really don't like each other, like, and then missing completely, and then
Yes.
it has some work. So hopefully it's going to be better than what it is at the moment. Sleep, sleep, sleep.
uh, he's just been silently sleeping, like right down here the whole time, like,
Oh wow,
and
okay.
just
And he's just
randomly
like,
just
okay,
barks at nothing.
I'm
Like,
I'm 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 I'm
yeah,
I'm gonna make a noise now.
he's probably salty that I haven't played with him in a while.
Oh yeah.
So the other thing that's being added is aerodynamic control surfaces. Ships with control
Ooh,
surfaces will be able to utilize them in atmosphere to aid their maneuverability. For instance, ships like the Arrow. This is going to mean that the flight model will change for the Arrow as you fly it around, and basically like being able to use flaps and
yeah,
rudders and stuff like that is actually very much going to be a thing in the game. And ships like the Arrow, the Gladius, and stuff like that are going to become very, very maneuverable in atmosphere.
yeah.
Not that they aren't
There's
already.
there's ships that are clearly designed to be more aerodynamic and more maneuverable in a flight, in an atmospheric kind of flight scenario, and there are definitely like ships that are designed to be, much more capable in space than in atmospheric situation. Um, and so, those obviously, having control surfaces are uh, going to really sort of, um, sort of break the kind of like, which one's designed for what into different area, to be much better in certain areas. And I imagine that, like, they're going to make, they're going to try and get things that are either really good in atmosphere or really good in space, but like not amazing in both. If you know what I mean. Um, because it should be something that you kind of you have to pick and choose, right? Because if something's just better at everything, just better in all scenarios, then obviously that is a bad kind of scenario when it comes to sort of balancing, because how are you going to balance everything else when nobody's using those other things because they're using the one that's amazing in both scenarios. um so the interesting thing is, like, there's definitely visual and design cues to certain ships that are a telltale sign that they're going to have aerodynamic control surfaces. A classic example is if they have wheels on their landing gear, and so like the the um, the Aegis Avenger Titan, is it?
I think it's most
Why
of
do I
the
feel like
Aegis line
this?
actually has wheels.
Yeah, like a lot of them have wheels, and so in a very real sense, they're designed for landing on runways. In actual fact, and they're not really. They shouldn't really be designed for landing using VTOL. Um, but I think, in a push they can, and in a push they can, obviously uh, use VTOL to land and to take off to some degree. But like, with aerodynamic control surfaces, they should be a lot easier and a lot better to be able to launch using a small runway. Um, and that's one of the reasons why they have wheels. It is to facilitate that. So
It'd be interesting to
yeah,
have like an aircraft carrier style with a runway.
yeah, yeah.
Um, Although, like, I think the Bengal carrier is that actually.
The Bengal Hagara
Yeah.
does have that. It's just externally to some degree, I think.
Well, I mean, a chunk of it's inside. It's got like the outside bit, but like it goes in. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, like that
I
would
think
be
that
an
might be the
interesting,
landing. Yeah,
Um, so from there, the ship showdown has officially started. They've launched the trailer for it and all that. This is pitting ships against ships in hopes of getting a winner that isn't a complete troll. So that
It's like,
the
please,
players can get a meaningful
please,
skin to add to their repertoire.
please, like, sort of like, please, can we not have a repeat of last year?
Yeah,
Which is always a bit of an awkward thing to say to a community, because like it's basically like saying, it's basically like trying not to tempt fate, or cause what is it, the what's the
this is how
internet
you
law
end
or
up with
whatever is it?
Bodie McBoatface.
Yeah, so how
Like,
you end up with Bodie McBoatface and such things. um the Streisand effect, right? It's,
yeah,
it's like, trying to minimize something by telling people not to do something is just going to cause a scenario where people you know, will go against what you're trying to say, what you're trying to get people to do, what you're trying to minimize, right? So hopefully that doesn't really happen as such, but you never know. It's the internet, and it's 2022, so you never know these days. But hey, as you said earlier, as you said, when introducing this, it'd be nice if we had a skin that a lot of the majority of people are gonna be able to use on a ship that we use fairly often, rather than
yes,
something that doesn't actually have any use whatsoever in the game at the moment, but was a
yes.
funny troll at the time.
The Argo Cargo is not a ship that deserves ship of the year in the showdown at all. Like, you know, we could have had a fucking Carrick skin, but no, we gotta let the Argo Cargo that sure everyone's got one, but they're the worst ship out there by far. They're useless.
Yeah, they
Even
they
when
they they,
cargo
they
gets
don't have
added, they will still remain being useless.
they do not have a utility at this point in time. And yeah, as you say, it's questionable as to whether they have have utility when the cargo, like the cargo system comes in. So
Yeah,
who knows? Who knows?
yeah. So from there, later this week, what to expect? Thursday, Inside Star Citizen will take a look at Korea and Klesher. This is going to be huge. Like, this will be a huge thing to add to the game. Um, the like hopefully this will kind of take a look at the new changes that were supposedly being added to the um, security post Korea. Like, there's some solid hopes there. Also, Friday is the ship showdown with an all vehicles Q&A episode for Star Citizen Live. Probably going to see some more development stuff, which is always good to see. From there, the PTU is currently on patch Y, i.e., they're running out of letters.
Yes.
So patch
I
kind of the highlights of these. They've been doing some really big testing, and in the most recent patch, patch Y, Ninetales Lockdown playtest for 4 hours, starting Thursday, August 18th, at
mhm.
12 a.m. Is that
I
time?
think
No,
that's UK time,
probably,
or
yeah.
it's probably either UK time, or it's European time, like EU Central Time, something like
Yeah. And then
that.
there's also a Siege Vorison
Yeah.
playtest for 6 hours, also on Thursday at 8 p.m. tentative.
Yeah.
Among a ton of other ton of other smaller changes. Um,
I thought it'd be actually wanted to mention Patch X, because Patch X had a thing that I think would be um, beneficial to a lot of people, and beneficial to and it will affect a lot of people who currently might have issues with the current live patch. But like, Patch X on the PTU apparently fixed multiple issues causing elevators around the persistent universe to block players' entry and use. I don't know whether you've experienced that, Ace,
More
at
than
all.
my fair share.
And that's mainly because you situate yourself at Microtech, and apparently
Yes.
Microtech was probably one of the worst offenders, if not the worst offender, aside from maybe the couple of the elevators at Orson. But yeah, Microtech was having a bad time. The funny thing is, like, I went on one of the playtests for the Siege of Orison, and literally the first thing that happened was the elevator opened, and I was able to pass through where the door, would normally restrict you if you were still having those issues. The only problem was the floor of the elevator looked like it was there, but it wasn't there. So I was like, yeah, I can get in the elevator. Oh, and I'm falling into nothingness. So yeah, that wasn't
rough.
exactly that wasn't the best of experiences. But thankfully, it wasn't a persistent thing. It was something that like just literally happened on a single server. So, I jumped to a different server, and it wasn't, the elevators were working perfectly fine on that server. So yeah. I just thought it was kind of hilarious. They're like, we fixed issues around elevators, and the first thing that happens when I when I go on the playtest is I have issues with falling through an elevator. Yeah. Yeah, there we go. Right, so patch Y, notable information. Second one, fixed further issues causing players to fall through elevator carriages. Yeah, that's how I experienced. That's what I experienced.
Yeah. So from there, we also got an hour-long live development video that discussed and kind of dug into the new go-kart tracks for Star Citizen. That, like, basically they said this is really taking a ton of their time. They felt it was, they didn't create any new assets for this. So like there's, more just placing everything in the right place, and you're good to go from there.
But you get to see the kind of tool that they're using in order to create the tracks and stuff, and it's kind of cool. It's actually really awesome.
If you're interested, that video is there. That said, that actually hits the end of our topics for the night. I want to do something that we normally don't do.
Oh.
And I'm going to raid another channel.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah. It's very rare, very very rare.
Yeah, we haven't done that for ages.
We're gonna do this. So for those that are like tuned out, have us on another tab or something. Go ahead and pop back over. I'm gonna set up the raid here. Set up the raid. This guy's out there kind of farming gypsum. Go ahead
has no idea.
Tell him hello and have some fun with it. I want to hand you guys off because I know that Twitch drops are on, and I want you guys to continue to get that credit.
Yeah.
So that's the reason we're doing this. So, yeah. That said, thank you guys for coming and watching our shows. Have fun watching. We're gonna drop into Eagle Garrett shortly. So the raid should be up. Click to join the raid. Give you guys a couple moments here to get back to your keyboards, get back to the tab, and click in. Let's see if we can make his day here.
Yep, and just for clarification, like we do not work for New World, or we do not work for Amazon Games. We are just lowly content creators, and that we like to talk about New World, about Lost Ark, and about Star Citizen. Like, yeah.
So
it's strange. It's strange how that always keeps coming up. Like,
yeah. So with that, thank you guys for joining the show. We will not be here next week. No. We are taking the week off, and the week after we'll be back. But the two of us are on vacation, and or McLeod has his internet being set up still. So
yeah, I'm moving house and stuff.
All right. Make sure that when we raid Eagle Garrett, that you guys say hello, throw him a follow, and spread the love for the community. So, thank you guys. Let's do this.
Let's go.